Hello mech fans and welcome to the Valhalla Club. Grab a Fusion Air and join us as we talk Battletech and the latest happenings around the Colorado Battletech community.
All right, folks, welcome to the Valhalla Club. I will be your bartender tonight, Ben, or BourBen. With me tonight at the bar, we've got Mike. What are you drinking tonight, Mike?
Good old Budweiser, but heavy, because I'm classy, I guess.
There you go. Dave, what are you drinking tonight, Dave?
Water.
Lame.
Fair enough. Designated driver. Matt, what do you got going on?
Some quality H2O.
And John. That'll be rum,
Let's
John.
get our guest. No, Tito's tonight. Just drinking vodka.
Okay. All right. Those are our normal regulars. Our special guest for tonight, we have Jason Hansa, author of a number of short stories in the Battletech universe. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And Dos Equis.
There we go. I like it already. And our other guest, our other special guest tonight is Canaan from the podcast of Mechs and Men, a Battletech podcast that focuses on the novels and lore related to the game universe. Canaan, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. And I am drinking. I'm drinking black coffee, however.
Fair enough.
Isn't that late?
If anyone, it's Stumptown. It's founded by Stumptown. And I saw you guys, okay, so you have the recipe for the large laser, and I thought about making one, and then I saw what it was, and I was like, nah, I'm okay. That's all right.
I respect you for that, man.
That's fair. We'll get into that when we get to that segment, though. But all right, so those are the folks here with us tonight. Let's get into our pile of shame and what we've been doing over the last month, fellas. Let's start off with Mike. Mike, what have you been up to this last month?
Not a lot of hobby progress in the painting realm. Still, because I'm lazy and I just don't want to, I guess. I don't know. But I've got a intro game in yesterday for a new player out here in the Springs. So games played, one learner game since the mid-month episode with my big game with Rick, but I already covered that one in the last episode. But that's about it for me.
Fair. Dave, what have you been up to this month?
So this month I've almost knocked my water over. This month I have played 2 games. One was against Charles, where we tried out the new WolfNet Epic rules, and that was pretty interesting. We both brought what was it, Renaissance era mercenary lists. So we were able to give a lot of good feedback to WolfNet. And honestly, fun set of rules. I think it's better for later eras, but we can talk about that later if we get to it. The other game that I played was against Damien, Josh, and Alex. We play a monthly scenario. Lately we've been only playing Hexless Classic, and this month was Damien's turn to GM the game, and it was a really fun time. We were a mercenary group that went up against some Comstar baddies and really kind of beat the piss out of them. So that was wonderful. And as far as painting and other hobby progress, I painted a garishly disgusting colored Warhammer in Dayglow orange and
That's your best
Dayglow
work.
yellow.
I'm sorry, Dave. That is your best work to date.
It looked pretty good, I'm not going to lie.
It actually turned out, I mean, props to Josh for giving me the idea to paint a battle mech to look like a Nerf gun, because it really does. But yeah, and then I've been just painting up some kind of generic bad guys, and I know you guys can't see it at home, but I'm actually working on an archer right now. And I've got about 25 primed miniatures sitting over there on my desk that's ready to get worked on. We'll see if I can get through those next month.
Cool. Matt, what have you been up to?
I have been up to organizing things more than actual painting and playing. So I will talk about it a little bit later, but we had our unofficial Kickstarter party, and that was a blast. And other than that, I've just been helping my 2 boys. They got really interested in painting a bunch of mechs, and so they picked out some color schemes, and they've been painting some fun stuff. So I've just been helping do some touch-ups for their stuff, and started painting some buildings, and it is taking forever. So maybe I do need to invest in the old airbrush just to move things along.
Yeah.
But Otherwise,
Get an airbrush.
yeah, everyone says it. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time. We'll see. That's all.
Good deal. John, what about you? John?
Whoops, I'm here. Sorry, guys.
Uh-huh.
I'm here for you guys. No, not a lot of painting, a lot of gaming between Tuesdays and Fridays. And Matt and I had the whole Kickstarter thing up in Hobbytown, Westminster, so I ran a big multiplayer game for that. That was a lot of fun. And then I've been tinkering around with like some homebrew rule sets for kind of like a weird in-between of Alpha Strike and Classic. And that's been a lot of fun too, actually. And I showed it to Ben, and he said, he was like, that's too much. He's like, go away.
Yes. That was too much math. Too much math.
Cool.
For me, at least. All right.
Couldn't even bribe him some crayons.
Right.
Oh, is Ben hungry?
It was the middle of the night.
Dude.
I'm always hungry. I'm a fat kid. I guess to eat.
What have you been up to, Ben?
Shoot. Okay. So it's been a busy month for me. I finished up the rule set for the Martial Olympiad that we're going to try and run up here in Westminster. I stripped and cleaned about 30 minis of my old metal stuff.
Why?
And
Sorry.
they needed it. They really needed it.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm always fascinated when people say they strip minis. It's like, why not just keep them and buy more?
Well, I'm with you. It's a lot of my old original stuff from back in the day that had atrocious paint jobs, and I've learned things since 30 years ago, so it's time to give them a little fresh coat of update.
It's because he took them to the Kickstarter party and tried to trade them away, but everyone looked at him and they were like, no.
They're so badly painted that nobody wanted them.
I'm just always fascinated by that, because I've got 3-year-old minis, and I would never consider stripping them. I mean, they look like shit because I was, 12, but,
there's a few that I won't ever strip just because it reminds me of where I was at that time. But, there's some that I still want to use, and they're still kind of neat, and they just need an update. So I stripped those. I've got about 30 miniatures that I primed, and I'm getting ready to paint, and did a little bit of writing, and played a few games. So that's kind of my update on my pile of shame. Canaan, what are you going up to, man?
Games played. My little brother moved to the area recently. And so he's been coming over, he's been hanging out, and he's never played BattleTech before. He didn't know, really, I've been playing with him. He's been coming down here, and I've been showing him the game. We've been having a lot of fun. We've played like 4 or 5 games now, all Alpha Strike. I'm just like, check it out, dude. It's Alpha Strike. It's simple. And we're having a good time. I'm using, I have my table here. I have the 8mm Warzone from Frontline Gaming, Matt, like a 6x4. It's awesome. And I'm using, I have all the buildings from like the Alpha Strike, like box set. It's cool. We built like a little urban thing. We've been playing with it. Oh, and I've been playing I have these like the ace cards. I have like BattleTech Aces, which is that's like the AI system for playing solo or cooperatively.
Are you liking that?
And I printed these out. Yeah, they're cool. I put them in sleeves, and they're just like this deck of cards that are just instructions for Alpha Strike. It's cool.
You got that off the Kickstarter, right?
Yeah, when you they like email you like a PDF, and I opened it up and I was like, oh, this is cool. And they were like, print them off, check it out. And I did. I played a few games with it. It's fun. It really does feel like you're playing a game against like the CPU. I was like, this would be cool for like just playing a little campaign, like a little pirate hunting like campaign. It's cool. I'm having a good time. And
Nice.
Painting. Oh, I have a bunch of stuff. Almost all my stuff is primed. I don't have that much stuff. I know you these huge collections. My collection, it's very modest, but it's all plastic. I don't have any of the metal stuff. But they're all primed. I'm just going through, I've like base coated a bunch of them and like dry brushed and done the details. I do want to do, like for a list, like if I'm going to go to a shop and play, I decided I want to do the Ryuken, the Combine the Ryukin with like the gray and blue. I think they're cool. And
ooh, Combine.
I like it. I was like, yeah, dude, wolves on the border. Manobu. Never forget. I was like, yeah, they're all gray. It's cool. But yeah, that's it. Really, nothing.
Awesome.
I haven't. Yeah.
Sounds like you got a good thing going out there.
Oh, I wanted to ask real quick. I did experiment with stripping because I read about it, and I had a couple that I had base coded, and I was like, maybe I actually want to do these. I had done them differently, and I was like, maybe I want to do these. I want to use these for my other list, and I read about it, and I was like, does this work? I wanted to try it, and I tried. I used I wanted to ask, what do you use, to strip the minis with? Is it
ultrasonic cleaner and probably simple green?
Simple. Yeah, I use Pine Sol. Pine Sol.
Anything that's a mild solvent.
Yeah.
I use LA's Totally Awesome.
Also works.
And I'm going to be using that because I have 5 Timberwolves painted on the exact same scheme. And so I'm going to strip 4 of them and paint them to other factions.
That's what I use.
I think you should.
I use the LA's Totally Awesome. It's good.
Every time I hear
keep them and have them worship the 4-inch Timberwolf.
every time I hear someone say simple green, I think it's Soylent Green, and I'm a little thrown off.
Yeah,
I always think of the green.
I'm totally painting that 4-inch Timberwolf like the Warhammer.
I always think of the green stuff that comes in a big tub that you sit there and clean grease off your fingers with. I'm like,
right.
Dunk the mini in it.
Was it that Ultimate Orange or whatever it was?
Yeah. Yeah, for after you sit there and change your oil, you sit there and you scrub your hands down with simple green.
Well, cool.
It works.
Why would you put that in Mechs? Is there a liquid form?
Yeah.
See, that's the piece I didn't know.
Yeah, you can buy it in 5-gallon jugs or 1-gallon jugs.
I was just curious. I knew it can't be too caustic or too abrasive, right? It has to be. Yeah.
As long as it doesn't melt the plastic, that's the important part.
It's good.
It's got to be enough to eat the paint and loosen it, but not caustic enough to destroy the plastic underneath.
Or the super glue, I guess, for metal one.
That's all.
Yeah. You get the paint kind of stains the super glue when you use metal minis, and so once you strip them off, unless you pull the glue off completely and kind of sand all that crap off and everything else, it gets pretty gross. But for me, it's always been Pine Sol, and I just soak them for a couple of days, and then run them under some hot water and take a toothbrush to them and kind of scrub everything off that needs to get done. So
yeah, that's all I got. I just wanted to ask about what stripping agent you used.
Usually glitter works too.
Totally.
All right.
Why you always covered it in that, Ben?
That's
Trent's
right.
gonna love this episode.
Covered in glitter and dollar bills.
All right, know who I'm sending a glitter bomb to.
Right.
Quick question: how many minis do you guys own? I'm at 100 over here. Ben, you've got 200. Right?
I'm at
open the spreadsheet.
250 minis, 300 vehicles.
Are we counting what we just bought with the Kickstarter?
No, I'm not even counting that.
Only what's in hand. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got 500 battle armor minis.
Nice.
500 battle armor.
That's a ton.
You
I
never know.
I have about 200, I think.
That's amazing.
Way more than my wife knows about, and the count is less than she wants to know.
Yeah. I'm trying to decide how honest to be because I think she'll listen to the podcast. So.
See, I know my wife won't. So.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, mine don't either.
I did.
All right. Go ahead, King.
I'm sorry.
No, man, do it.
I listened in your last episode. Someone suggested pledging to the Kickstarter with the credit card your wife doesn't know about.
Oh, that was me.
Yep.
I thought that was very funny. I thought that was. I did. I had a good laugh.
You can always go down the moral high ground route and sit down with her and say, hey, here's what I'm going to do, and actually take her to the Kickstarter site like I did and say, here's all the options we have. And she's like, well, which one do you want? Do you want the $5,000 one? I was like, well...
Oh,
wait, she gave you that option?
She gave me that option. She's like,
and you did not do it. Why?
Because I didn't want her to spend $5,000.
there it is.
I understand that argument.
Because who knows where that
was
would
with a double
at.
price.
It does. It does.
5 becomes 10 real fast.
Yeah. She was happy to let me go to the 500, and that was as far as I needed to go. So
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Jason.
Yeah,
I think we still need Jason's.
We still need Jason's update. Jason, what have you been up to? What have you been working on? What's your pile of shame?
My pile of shame is massive. for the past month, for about 3 weeks, I've been down here in Texas. But right before I scooted down here, one of the guys at the store, Chuck, he was building a list. I thought for Adepticon, but it might be for a different con. But he was practicing where you sit there and you capture the point in the middle for victory points. So
King of the Hill.
I don't know. I guess so. Yeah. And he was testing his list. It was like a 5K or a 7K. So I put together a list to throw up against him, just and got my ass kicked. But it was fun. And pile of shame. Nothing. I personally haven't painted in years. My son does a little bit of painting. He's currently painting up a 3D printed King Crab 010 in Alpha Galaxy, Wolf Clan Alpha Galaxy colors for me. But yeah, I've got, I don't know, however many minis were in the original clan invasion, plus plus a couple spares, is in the gray. It's a plastic, and then I've got 50 or to 75, maybe almost 100 metal still in their original packaging, just tucked in containers that I've never built yet. So, yeah, pile of shame.
Fair enough. Yep. Pile of shame. You can also include any pile of shame writing that you've been sitting on the back burner too, if you want.
Started. Writing pile of shame. My White Whale is a story about the last worm. The worm SDSs. So that's
yes.
The worm submarines, the massive ones on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when I kind of get stuck on anything else, that's the one I open up and tinker with and edit. So that's my White Whale. So I guess that would count as a writing pile of shame.
Nice.
The last worm.
Yeah, well, it's actually the second to last worm, because the last worm is actually the worm. It's in like the Jihad. So this is the second one. It's the Kurakami. It's based out of Japan. All the worms are named after mythological beasts, I've decided. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I actually want to finish this story. It's very cinematic. I have no idea whether John or Phil will ever accept it, so it might end up just being on a fan fiction site one of these days. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Cool. All right. That concludes our pile of shame segment. Now we're going to roll into the main medal. So the main medal for this month is we're going to be talking to Jason Hansa and Canaan of Mechs and Men, and talking about novels and stories and all the stuff that kind of gives us the meat of BattleTech. So we're going to start off with Jason. Jason, I can tell you that, I'm thrilled to have you on the show. I spent, I don't know how many hours reading some of your stuff, especially back in the Battle Corps days. So some of the stuff that Jason has done that I've read, at least, Irreplaceable, which was a fantastic story.
Yeah.
No Dust, No Wear, Innocent Defenseless, The Old Rules of Hire, which I was fascinating. There's No We in Mercenary, The Third Pillar, Those Who Stand High, 3 Points of Pride, and that's about my limit right there. I'm sure there's many others out there that you've written. Let's talk about a little bit, how did you get started? Which came first, Hansa the player or Hansa the writer?
Hansa the player. My best friends were a year older than me, so they moved on to high school before me. So I was in 8th grade, and they were freshmen in high school, and they came back, early in the year, and they're like, we just learned this cool game at Gamers Guild. Do you want to learn it? I'm like, yeah. And so we started playing BattleTech. So that was the fall of '87. So yeah, 8th grade, fall of '87. And so yeah, those first games were hysterical because they only had like photocopies of parts of the rules, and we were like building mechs that would move 1 to 21. We didn't understand.
Nice.
So, finally we got a copy of the Rules of Warfare and TRO 3025, and we were actually start playing legal games. But so yeah, I've been playing for years and years, and so yeah, the Jason the player came well before Jason the writer.
Okay, so with Jason the player, what's Jason the player's favorite mech?
I love, so our group has a lot of kind of people play a lot of the same things. Some guys will play, different, you'll see them bring the same stuff. Me, I like being random, and I'm also kind of lazy. So whichever TRO I open up, if I want to play, the Jingao or something like that. If I want to play a Jingao, then pretty much everything for that weekend is coming out of that same TRO. And so it's fun because there'll be the enemies, my group will be like, holy cow, is that an initiate? I haven't fought one of those in 13 years.
Right.
So for general tomfoolery, I love the Black Hawk T, the one with the chemical lasers, for like going to a con and just like when it's kind of a free-for-all last mech standing thing, just running around with stupid amount of chemical lasers and doing ridiculous amounts of dumb damage. I love it so much. I think the first mech I can remember playing like legally was a Hunchback. I think it was a Hunchback versus Awesome Duel against one of my best friends. So I mean, going all the way back, that'd probably it's always a favorite of mine.
Right on.
Classic.
What about favorite faction?
Well, I don't really have a favorite faction per se. Like, growing up, because of Stackpole, I was a huge Federated Sons fan like everybody, and then of course I was a Mercenary fan like everybody else. But way, way, way back, like I said, when my best friends first introduced me into the game, I had a copy of FASA's Star Trek, and so everything I knew about BattleTech came out of the catalog. And they had a picture there. It's actually the Northwind Highlander lady. But she was listed as Romano Lau. I'm like, whoa, she's pretty. I'm going to work for her with my mercenary unit. So, I guess originally I was a Capellan stan, but
What?
But nowadays I don't try to have a favorite faction. I think heroes and villains can be found in any story in any faction. So I just try to tell a good story. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's what you get with a lot of players. They may have one faction they lean towards a little bit, but for the most part, you get a lot of different options in pretty much every faction that's out there.
The Federated Sons is easiest to write. So unfortunately, I definitely like stretching my wings and trying other factions in fiction. But yeah, if John shot me a text and said, hey, I need a story in 3 weeks, go. It immediately default to either Mercenaries or Federated Sons. So
all right. Since you've opened up that box, how did you get into the writing side of things? What was your first process or first story or first
back in
thing?
'05, Battlecore ran that unique Mechs contest. And I really enjoyed submitting, just throwing together little stories, 500-word entries. And so from there, I just let me try my hand at writing a real story. And that's where it was. It was really the unique Mechs contest that drove me to try my hand at actually writing actual stories and submitting the battle course. So, and at the time, you still had to you had to print out the story and send it with a self-addressed stamped envelope to battle course. So... And I was sitting there in Afghanistan writing stories and, mailing them away with MPS over in the corner.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, there's I think probably me and does anybody else remember the Battlecore stuff besides me and Hansa?
No.
Yeah.
What?
The what though? Let me get my cane and my my old fashioned out.
The Battlecore stuff is so interesting to me because a lot of those stories have been collected in those anthologies, right? But a lot of them haven't, and it was like a subscription website. I came in after Battlecore, and I just had to look back, and there's been things that I've tried to find that I can't find because there's just some stuff that seems to be lost to time. And I've even asked around, I've seen forum posts and stuff. It's funny. It's you always hear about the Battlecore days. And I'm like, Battlecore, man. And all these cool stories came out of it. And all these guys who are writing now, they all started in Battlecore, dude. And I'm like, what? It's cool. I don't know anything about it though. It's kind of like this mysterious black box.
That's exactly it. So you haven't read, or have you, A Storm of Fire and Rain? It was one of my Battlecore ones that hasn't made it. The Operation Wrath.
I couldn't find it. Dude,
if I'd known that, I would have shot it to you.
Okay. I read it. Yeah, that's true. I saw it's listed on Sarna as one of your Yeah, one of your
Nobody
works,
knows that one
but
because
I couldn't find
it's
it.
lost to the Battle Corps. You know, the Operation Rat hasn't been published as an anthology yet.
Yeah, the Battle Corps days were interesting because, you had a lot of writers that were kind of up and coming.
Yep.
And Battle Corps was, I think, was that Lauren and, what was the FASA guy?
Lauren was Lauren sent me back my first rejections. That's fun. So
Uh,
The way to start things.
yeah,
It's great.
yeah, it was Lauren and the original FASA guy that kind of, I thought, kicked off the Battle Corps stuff, and it was the subscription website, and people were submitting stories, and a lot of folks
me and
kind
Craig Reed came up at the same time. There was like a small writing group, and I don't know what happened to the rest of the writing group. They just kind of disappeared, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, me and Craig, we both got our first stories submitted and like published at the same time. We both checked each other's stories. So, and it's weird, when Battle Corps was going on, me and Craig were the new kids, and now 15 years later, it's like we're some of the last ones left standing, and it's like, what? We're the experienced ones. People are coming to us for writing advice.
Right.
Was Battle Corps kind of like the modern Shrapnel, or was it much different?
Exactly, it was exactly like Shrapnel. They tried to publish like 3 stories a month, but just because of submissions, they couldn't maintain that. So it was really about once a month. But yeah, it's a subscription service that would publish us by a month or more. And yeah, they had an open submission process, which is, how did Jason the writer? Well, there was a huge fan fiction section of Battle Corps, and I'm like, and I'm like, if I'm going to go through all this effort, I want the 5 cents of work.
right. Yeah,
so people thought I came up, there's a misperception that I came up through the fan fiction side. Nope. I've written no fan fiction.
Mhm.
I was like, I had a baby, I'm like, I want to get paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I need
I'm
that.
doing the
that
work.
money.
I want the money.
That's right.
Very good.
Well, cool. Yeah, it was an interesting time, and then I think, from what I recall of the time there, it was about the Whiz Kids and the Fan Pro kind of changeover, and Battle Corps kind of just shut down.
Yeah, right around then. God, I know Cold Collaboration was my last story to come out under Battle Corps, and their last kind of anthology was Gray Market, which I didn't have a chance to submit to. I just didn't have a good story, and the submission window was just too tight. So, but yeah, so whenever that came out, I'm not sure when I had to look. But yeah, that was when Battle Corps just kind of died. So I had a couple in the select file.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, there's not a lot of folks that are doing a lot of this stuff that remember a lot of that old ancient history.
Yes. Cold was published in Slack Tides.
Yes. It was on Battle Corps first.
January 2016. Yeah, that's interesting. Huh.
Well, talking about some of your stories and stuff, Jason, what up to this point, what's the story that you most enjoyed writing?
That I most enjoyed writing? I really don't know. My original version of No Dust, No Wear was 18,000 words long, and so I cut out a full third of it, and I loved that original version. So that was one of my favorites to write. That one I wrote it all like in a week and a half, and it just ridiculous amounts of words. They were like flowing out of my fingers like a movie montage sequence. So that one might be one of my favorites to write.
The current version of No Dust, No Wear is like missing like its original third or so.
Yeah.
Oh no, dude, that one's so good.
Yeah,
dude with like Sandra Barclay and Ariel Suver, oh man, I love that one.
The daughter, Ariel Barclay,
yeah,
she was the third beating heart of the story. That she essentially became a niece to Ariel Silverov, and that's one of the binding elements because not only did they become friends, but the Khan having this Ariel, they call Khan Ariel, Technician Ariel. They just kind of refer to each other, and that was a huge part of why they kind of absorbed each other. She's like, and you can see hints of it still remaining, where I had to sit there and cut all of that out. But like Sandra was like, Ariel loves you. She looks up to you like as an aunt, and she wants to be like you when she gets older. And it, that so scenes like that. So there was a scene that broke my heart. It was the last 500 words I cut. Was Sandra Barkley going out to Ariana Winston's grave and just saying, hey, Dancer, it's me. And sitting there explaining her actions and why she's going to get the regiment absorbed. Just kind of cleaning off the grave. So that, in writing, they say you have to kill your darlings, which isn't mean, kill your main characters. It's the things that you love the most in the story don't necessarily make it a good story. And those 500 words, like I said, I kept those to the very end. But, where she's sitting there at General Winston's grave explaining how they're going to get absorbed.
Let's go. Oh, man. That's great.
I can shoot you that original version, buddy. I can, if you ever want that manuscript, I can shoot you it.
Dude, I totally read it.
I'll throw in a related question. Which of your works would you like Trend to voice?
Oh, yeah. He did a great job. I know we're kind of skipping ahead to the Hans question coming up, but I loved how much he was just angry. So I would 100% want him to do Irreplaceable. He did a good Hans. And so, yeah, and especially now that they're looking at doing the audiobooks with multiple voices, like they're going to bring the I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
But the two voice actors are going to start doing multi parts. I would love for them to collaborate on Irreplaceable. I mean, I'm not, if they ever ask me, which one would I want next in the queue?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And I would love for her to do, I know her name is like Violet, I want to say. Whole collaborations. That'd be cool.
I think she would
kill it. Absolutely kill it.
Yeah. There's I know they have Lisa Lee. She did the one with, Deny. And then I list audiobook, they have like a selection. They'll often change actors between these. But I really liked the woman who did No Dust Nowhere. She was great.
Yes, I did.
You hear that?
Yeah, it was weird.
She's her accents were awesome. I was like, man, she's so good.
Yeah, I would love to see her or hear her, I guess, do cold collaboration. That would be
yeah, she was great.
She kills it.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Kanan, you had a few questions for Jason. You want to take those?
I mean, they were like, put some questions in here. And they're asking real, they're like, what motivates you and stuff? And I'm over here like, hey, man.
Tell me about the kangaroos.
Yeah, what was that? That was
Something More.
Yeah, in Something More. They're on Coventry, and they're on the kangaroos. There's the kangaroo troopers.
Boomers.
Well, boomers, I guess. They call them, the females are flyers. The males are boomers. It's specified. But I was like, man, this rules. I don't know. I was like, I want to ask about the kangaroos.
Thank you. You were the first person that's talked about kangaroos ever. And as far as I know, I am one of the only science fiction writers in the history of science fiction to write about people riding kangaroos. It's not nearly as common as you'd think it is. And I had to watch Rescuers Down Under so many times to see how
Oh, nice.
Oh, yes.
So much Discovery Channel.
Because in Rescuers Down Under, the little kid jumps on the kangaroo. Yeah, and he rides it. So the descriptions are essentially me describing the Rescuers Down Under.
That rules.
And so, no, the story came around because they were doing the 25th anniversary book. And they sent out the artwork to everybody, and they said, write a story based on these artworks. And the Coventry one was still open, so that was my Coventry submission. And they did say, pitches that don't get accepted will still be considered for Battle Corps. And so, yeah, I didn't get picked for the Coventry one, but yeah, it still ended up being a Battle Corps submission.
Oh.
And I wanted to write it. I just thought it would be really neat. Because I think the idea of having any beast-mounted infantry in BattleTech is just awesome. And the idea of these kangaroos, and then once I actually watched how kangaroos moved, they do bounce up and down going slow, but once they speed up, they're just rockets. And
I thought that was so interesting. Yeah, when he brings that up, that when they go fast, they're like, and they're tearing through the forest. It paints such a vivid image in your mind of these troopers on these kangaroos, just ripping through the forest. It's so cool.
I was actually, because I'm an Army guy, I have access to Doctrine. I really wanted to use these kangaroo-mounted infantry as proper Cav Scouts, and so a lot of the doctrine that they're sitting there doing their striking attacks and stuff like that is very much based in actual Cav Squadron doctrine. So, thank you for appreciating the story. That is one of my favorites, and I wish I had more words because it's kind of a fast moving story, unfortunately. But yeah, it's one of my favorites. It's one of my personal favorites, and I thank you for liking it.
I love. While we're on it, I love the part where she, I think Talar's in the commando, and she stops real quick, and then like Raymond, he has to like skid, and he's like, "What? Why'd you stop?" And then he turns, and she's scooped up the infantry, like in her hand, and she's like, "I saved them," and he's like, "Good work." And I was like, "Oh, like it's like
Hansa Sanda skill makes an appearance." And that story, actually, that scene made me kind of a better writer, because during that battle, I was sitting there and the Hollanders taking damage, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should look up how much damage I've actually inflicted. And yeah, I'd cored the mech. And so, so now I make sure, when I'm sitting there writing battle scenes, I've got copies of the proper record sheets open to make sure that I don't actually destroy the mech, that I don't. So, my first draft.
Good point.
Whoops. Oh, that's another funny part.
You get
So when I originally wrote the story, Coventry kangaroos weren't described like any source book. So I wrote them as actually like more kind of like giant bunnies, just more of an alien thing. I was leaning into the fact that BattleTech is alien worlds, but they were nicknamed kangaroos. And, Fact Check sent me back a thing saying nope, they're actually kangaroos, genetically modified. I'm like, well, where is this listed? You can't knock me for canon that's not written.
I like Talara says that. She's like, they look like giant rabbits. And Raymond's like, don't tell those guys that they're on a giant attack bunny. It's like,
so that's kind of a carryover from when I was at the original conversation about the bunnies parts. But yeah, one of my favorite lines is, they're marsupials, cadet. Didn't you notice the pouches?
You're right. And that was like a pretty old one, right? Like that was off
2009-ish
anthology. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Korea when I wrote that one.
Wow.
Yeah, actually, cool. Very few of my stories, especially all my early stuff, was actually written overseas. So
interesting. That is interesting. Okay.
Let's. Go ahead, King.
Well, I was also going to ask about. I read it in the anthology Killzone. Operation Scythe. Those Who Stand High. It's the story of. It's like during the Jihad.
Right.
It's in Colorado. It's on Terra. And I was like, Colorado, like Valhalla Club, like those guys. I was like, I bet they know, I've never been to Colorado. But,
up in Gunnison.
Yeah, I was like, Gunnison, that's a cool story, by the way. I love that the scene, dude, the intro where they're coming in on the VTOL, it's like so scary, and they're all packed in there, and they're coming in on and you all packed in so tight, and they have like their bags and like their like armor. And then they're like approaching the airfield.
Yeah, that's almost a cold open. I love that part of it. And I appreciate you liking that story, because I don't, nobody seems to know it exists.
I'm kind of pissed at you for that one too.
Why?
Because I was about probably 2,000 words into a VTOL fast rope story, and then I read that one, and I was like, well, cancel that whole thing because
got scooped.
That one's.
Because Jason did it years ago.
I did.
But if no one knows about it.
No, but
it's true.
When a tree falls
fast
in the
roping
forest.
isn't, that happens, but that's off to the side, so you could totally write that story.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah. I did like
Some
he has
parasol dope on a rope.
Right.
He has a mention, and that I was like, heck yeah, dude. I love the mention.
Yeah, the mentions.
I love the weird Capellan mech.
Yeah. Doesn't really show up very often.
And what I love about BattleTech is like
they're like drinking coffee and stuff.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I was just saying, one of the things I love is because of salvage. Why is this avian unit got a mention on their, I don't have to explain it. They just do. I don't care.
Why don't they?
Exactly.
I'm personally happy whenever I don't have to fly in a helicopter. Just throwing that in there.
That's fair.
Man, helo jumps are the best. Like, legitimately. They're my absolute favorite.
You know what? Go get yourself another drink, Mike.
I wrote here, look, one of my only notes for that one was, there's a thug painted. There's a thug named Physics Department. I thought that was very fun.
Gunnison has a college.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like they get attacked by a thug, and on the side is painted the words Physics Department. Oh, that's very good.
Thank you.
I laugh.
Let's talk about 3 Points of Pride for a second.
Right.
The football
This
story.
is my most 3 Points of Pride is one of the most controversial of all my stories because people either love it or hate it. There's not a lot of people that are like, it's fine. People are like either, hey, this is very cool, or they're like, this is not BattleTech. This sucks. You know.
It's 3 Points of Pride gets mentioned, like in all the other people talk about like, oh, you know, the football one. And for a while I was like, what's this football one? Until I found it, and I was like, oh, Jason Hansa wrote this. This is it says it references like something from a source book, but it's like an extrapolation of like some kind of snippet. I don't know. I didn't know anything about it. Interesting. About the football game. Everyone knows this one. It's like, it's the one about the football game. It's so
How
funny.
do you not know about the football game?
Yeah. It's so like infamous.
It is. That is a good word for it. Everybody knows of this story.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember did that come out of the
Invading Clan sourcebook.
Invading Clan sourcebook? Yeah, it was like when they took.
Yep, it's about 3 lines on underneath Shellyak.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Shellyak.
Which,
Yes.
So I remember they discussed in Warriors of Kerensky, or Blood of Kerensky, where Phelan's, back on the homeworlds or whatever, going through the clan indoctrination and everything, and he gets involved in a lacrosse game, and and then seeing that little snippet in the Invading Clan source book that the Ghost Bears want to playing football. It was one of those neat little ties to our current world versus the universe kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd read that snippet and just kind of forgot about it or whatever. And then, luckily, the show notes, I saw this question. I was, where did this idea come from? I had to sit there and really think. I think I was watching like YouTube or something like that, and they were discussing trick plays. And it might have been like somebody might have used a trick play in a college game or something like that, which is why it was in the news or whatever. And one of the things that was mentioned was that it's hard to pull off a trick play because for a lot of them, the offense has to set up in very specific patterns. So if the defense can see what's going on, they can read a trick play instantly. And I'm like, huh. And, and it just kind of clicked. I'm like, interesting. Yeah, because that's right. Yeah. And so, the college games were going on. And so, I just kind of clicked it. I'm like, okay, the Clans won. I'm like, but what would it have been like to be professional football players playing these guys and just getting your asses kicked? So, yeah. And so, the whole game revolves around a trick play because I just thought that was an interesting idea that the Clans were winning because they were physically superior, not because they were actually better football players, And so, the professionals just, it wasn't really even the 3 points that's important. It's the fact that they pulled off a play. So,
yeah.
No, I love that little story. I was
cool.
surprised that Schmetzer accepted it. I kind of like, I wrote this. I understand if it's not BattleTechy enough. So, and then, it came out on New Year's Day, I believe, the same day as the Rose Bowl. So they actually, it was a football story. I think it was the Rose Bowl. You don't hold me to that.
Let's move to the third pillar. Mike thinks this is a super dope story about the heist in the Grasshopper.
I do. I don't know, Jason, we were talking probably about 2-3 weeks ago on the Wolfnet server about it. And I just want to say I super appreciate it and reiterate the fact that if no one else has given you love for it yet,
not
they're
a
dumb.
soul. You're the person. I think you're the only person that's read it.
Oh, man.
That entire anthology of Legacy was amazing, and who doesn't love a good heist story? Like,
Totally.
Come on.
Yeah.
Right?
That was such a good story. I loved all of it. The entire anthology of Legacy was amazing. And I just wanted to vocalize my love for the third pillar because it was amazing. And you said you did all kinds of research and everything. Like, I'm not one to go like, how much does money weigh? And I would never have thought of that until you mentioned it. And I'm like, but that from creating the story and this, like, that's, I appreciate you, good sir.
I would like to start off by saying that Legacy is absolutely, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, anthology out there. I concur with you 100%. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that it follows one specific mech.
It's so cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Not following a chassis or a pilot, one specific mech.
And they're like writing their names on it, like throughout the story.
Yes. It was so freaking cool. I loved it.
From its inception, like on the floor of the research lab, all the way till its final destruction. That
absolutely. To its final resting place in the museum. Yeah, like just the entire thing was badass. And who doesn't love a good heist, man? It's a heist. It's
cool. And we get you get like the nightclub scene.
Yeah.
Where they go see the dude and like it's all like and they like kill the guards. It's so cool.
I loved it. It's awesome.
It's so emotionally when I loved it. What is it? The dude in the grasshopper is out there. He's with this boy like Marcos, and they're in like the refinery, and Marcos is down, like the artillery's still there, and he's like hit me 9, and he's like no, and like he's like oh man, it's so I was like no Marcos stop. It's that one rules. Yeah, third.
That was a
sick
pushback from the editor actually. Was I don't think I originally killed him. And he's like, this goes a little bit too smooth. You need to throw in a few more roadblocks. So yeah, so shout out to the editing team for all of them. Schmetzer especially. I would not be the writer I am today without Jason's guidance. And then Phil and John, who've picked up the reins. They know when to let me run, but they also sit there and smack me around properly. Hey, this is a little bit too nice, a little bit too easy. Beat them up a bit more. Roger. So. Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, I love that story. I love
that's
I also love yes, I do my research. I'm quite sure I'm on a federal watch list for this because then they're Googling how much money's in the Philadelphia Mint.
Oh yeah, that comment made me laugh.
But you're not a real writer unless you're on at least one watch list. Every writer will tell you that.
Exactly.
I respect that.
One of the things I love is like fleshing out pieces of the universe. Especially like in that era. That era is the ending of the personally owned battle mechs versus the army owned battle mechs, and so that unit actually, that unit is taken from a source book, and it sat there and said that essentially the Lyrans reclaimed all of their mechs and they were left with bare bones. So I kind of fleshed that out to see what it would look like. But I love when I can flesh out little eras like that, and then this is just me. But then, I'll see on the forums, people are like, has there ever been a story? Has it ever been talked about how when the era, and like, have you read any of my stuff? Has this ever been described? Yeah, I wrote that about 10 years ago. Thanks for noticing.
Right.
Yeah, well,
read a book, Dave.
I swear
exactly.
to God.
Exactly.
There are people.
I know the title for this episode now. It's the Valhalla Club gets obscure.
Oh, it's good.
Yes.
Sometimes it's like, guys, I'm with tears in my eyes. Please read something written after Y2K. Just.
Totally.
Oh,
no,
man.
You guys are just old. I'm sorry.
You Ben. You young fellas.
Geriatric squad.
You don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
You're old too, bitch.
Oh, and I appreciate everybody, saying their love for my stories. It's heartwarming. I am not a novelist. I am not the Stackpole. I've just kind of crank out stories here and there and just kind of keep the lights on while the other people are writing the big stuff, So I appreciate everybody really enjoying my stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting writing style, for what I've noticed with my work on the sourcebook side of things compared to a short story kind of writing, compared to even a novel type writing, where you've got 100,000 words to play with, compared to a 5, 6, 7,000 word kind of cap. So there's definitely a lot of a different style you have to kind of get your brain into to write stuff like that. What do you think about where is your comfortability level at as far as novels versus short stories kind of thing?
I would like to crack at a full-length novel. I am very good, I think, in like the 12,000 word area. That's the size of the 2 Light Horse stories, the 3rd Light Horse story. It just kind of, that seems about where I get flesh out all the people properly and then kill half of them. So,
That's
7,000 is just...
BattleTech books require death.
I just try to tell a good story. Some stories are romping space opera, and some... BattleTech is a huge genre-wise. So some stories are just fun, romping. I write a heist story, I write a football story. But then there's the ones that are more military sci-fi, and people die in the army. It's part of war. Goes back to MASH. Rules 1 and 2. So,
yeah. Ken, you had something on here about revisiting Hans Davian.
Oh,
I'm always curious about Hans Davian.
Well, yes, because
Bias.
So you wrote Irreplaceable.
Back in like 7.
About and that's Hans Davian and Dennis. Oh, Arden's in there. You get a lot of good Arden Sortek stuff. That story rules. I feel like that's like a fan favorite. I hear that gets whispered. It's like, oh, Irreplaceable. That's the one with it's very sad. It's what is it? Halstead Station, the Battle of Halstead, and I think Hans goes on to become known. I've been elsewhere where he's like, oh, the victor of Halstead Station, and you see this story. It totally works though. I was like, man, it's very affecting. And then, because that was very early on, and then we get No We and Mercenary, and I'm like, oh, he's doing. We got Hans again. I just thought it was funny. I was like, oh, you get to revisit Hans Davian, over 10 years later. Is that cool?
Absolutely. But it wasn't originally supposed to have him in it at all. I was sitting there writing the story about that particular battle, and I came across a continuity landmine. Colonel Winston, whose his first name is skipping me right now. He, in the source book, the Fourth Succession War source book by FASA, he died. But then in the later Light Horse stories, during the the attack Task Force Serpent, General Winston has a picture of him on like her counter or something like that, and he actually dies like in 53 or 55 or something like that. And it was a continuity error that nobody had noticed for like 20 years. So I brought it up to Phil. I'm like, okay, and like you don't bring up a problem unless you have some solution. So I'm like, okay, this is a continuity error, and it's never been noticed, but if I read this story, it's going to be. I'm like, I can do a couple different things. I can do one is like a duplicate or the original source book, or I can say this was a massive cover-up, And Phil's like, go with that one. I'm like, good, because that way, because I was also limited because he was the only person in the FASA source book that has died. And when you're having a regimental combat team fight a warrior house and only one person dies from a heart attack, I mean, it was becoming very difficult to write anyways. So I'm like, all right, well.
Sounds like propaganda.
So I'm like, okay, well, now that the kid gloves are off and I declare this a cover-up, I can kill a whole bunch of people. So
that rules.
But so Hans came back into the story.
You're cutting
because
between...
somebody has to declare this a cover-up. Yeah. Somebody has to be powerful enough to sit there and say, no, we're gonna lie in our own source book, because remember that the source book's an in-universe publication. So It had to be Hans. I had to come back. I had to go back to the well again, which isn't really my thing. I don't do a lot of sequels. I don't think I've done a sequel. So going back to him was kind of like, I have to do this. So, but I did love it because, Hans is a lot of things in my stories. I think I've probably written almost as many words as, I'm not as many as Stackpole, but I'm definitely probably more than most. You've seen him upset. You've seen him sad, but this was him pissed. And that was fun to write. And I also think that the voice actor nailed it. When Hans is like, there's no we in Mercenary, but there is me.
Yes.
Yeah, that line came up when I was thinking about the discussion about the cover-up. I was going to sit there and say, General Armstrong's like, well, we don't really do cover-ups. Well, luckily, there's no we in Mercenary. You'll do what the hell I pay you for. So, that's where the title came from as I started weaving in what the scene would look like.
He's like, that's not how we do business. Like, business I think I love Hans is like, if I was a betting man, and Quintus is like, you are a betting man. And he's like, oh, right.
Yeah.
That's so good.
If you
love
look at the story, that he sits there and he pulls out this title for a moon, and he's inviting her with a +1, and Hans knows every single thing that happened. As he's sitting there saying, we've pulled your recordings, we got your voice transcripts. He knows everything that happened. And, that's why the moon is good for fishing, because he knows who she likes, the proposal, the plus, he gives the +1. Yeah, he's called the fox for a reason. Oh. He knew exactly everything that happened, and he wanted to hear it from their lips. So, yeah, that whole sequence, you are betting that. That was quippy, but yeah, he had that in that drawer for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Even that rules.
That's a really good story.
Sometimes some of my stories have stuff like that in them for readers to find and figure out on their own. So, spoilers, I guess. But yeah, Hans knew every single thing that had happened on that planet before they walked in that door.
Of course.
Yep.
It's the fox.
Mm-hmm. He is the fox, man. He's the best.
Yeah, writing him just pissed off.
Biased.
I'm biased. Fine. Jason, so how do you... it's just Mike talking shit. How do you get most of your stories out there? Is it usually pitches that you do, or is it stuff that's assigned, or how does that come into play?
They send out every so often. The editing team will send out a solicitation. Dear BattleTech writers, and they'll have everybody on the list, and they'll be like, excuse me, we are looking for. We're going to write like the ELH anthology. We're going to write an anthology based on the Light Horse. This is the basic premise. We would like pitches on, they listed all the different battles, and they said they'd like multiple pitches if possible. Pitch on different ones in case other people. And so, yeah, you sit there and you pitch on the solicitation, and then they assign you which one you're going to get. So, and I don't always get one. I pitched for Tukid, and I did not get selected. It's just because I've been writing doesn't mean I have any more sway in the process of, somebody else's pitch was better. And it was. The Tukid story where Pecan Winters is sitting there, trying to kill Fox. That's an amazing story. Absolutely. I would have picked it over my own pitch.
Right.
So, Phil and John, they know their business. So, yeah.
Have you ever pitched anything thinking, you know what? I don't know what this is going to go. I don't know if I even want to write this.
That was 100% what happened with the Light Horse story. The Huntress story, No Dust Nowhere, like I said, I had that completely scripted out in my head when I had the pitch in. I knew how that story was going to flow. The other one, I'm like, I can do this. A big regimental fight. I like this. And when the came back, you've got 2 stories. I'm like, excuse me? And more than that, they had originally mistyped the date. So I'm like, okay, so I have 3 weeks to write the first story. Okay, then. So luckily I ended up with more time. They pushed out the right schedule. But there were some days of where I was sitting there drinking like a beer, a coffee, a water, and then repeat. I was just typing like a madman. It was ridiculous. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I think that's the only story that I was actually surprised, where I thought my pitch wasn't the strongest. But I thought it was a good pitch, and I'm like, I can make this story work. I'm like, but I was hoping for Hunters, and I ended up with both. But saying that, I love that story. I love the combined arms feel of it. I love showing, calling in air support, calling in, tanks and all of it. So the infantry. So I think it turned out well. Yes.
There's a Merlin.
Yeah, I was so excited about that.
Yeah. It's like, oh, cool.
I didn't think anybody had put a Merlin on screen before. I'm like, heck yeah. So I wrote it in. And then I am super proud of that character. She, because I was digging into the original Periphery first edition, Rowan Atwire. She, and that religion is listed in the original Periphery source book, but it kind of disappears in later edition.
Oh,
yeah.
With
The
Gregorianism?
Gregorianism, polyamorousness. And I'm like, you know what? This was canon in 3025, so I'll put it in here. But more than that, I wanted to show, because of all the worlds that humanity's going to be spreading to, there's going to be differences in religion. There's going to be different marriages and different things, like those little things on different worlds that we don't really see a lot of. And then the idea of using jewelry as, like barrettes as engagement rings. I don't know where that came from, probably the liquor. But I really liked it because I sat there and I was looking, and I don't think anybody else has really done that in sci-fi. So, I try to do little unique things like that. So
I like a lot of your stories because you always like to pepper in scenes of the characters just like hanging out. It's not just like plot, 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 plot. It's like like in a lot of your stories, it's like here's a scene, they're just like chilling. They're just chatting and just like being characters. I love it. Those are some of my favorite moments.
I've been lucky that I've had the space in some of my stories to do that. Sometimes the words are tight and you don't get that, but it's not war all the time. I mean, there's that famous quote, war is periods of boredom punctuated by moments of terror. And that's really what I think this BattleTech is. A lot of boredom, a lot of sitting around and waiting, and then all of a sudden, it's war on a scale that's almost unimaginable.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a note in here about audiobooks. Who's talking about that?
Well, I was going to add, I've kind of already, because I was like, oh, did you listen to did you like,
I've been trying, and the BattleTech they're like sending out audiobooks like every 5 minutes now with the Kickstarter. I don't listen to a lot of audiobooks, honestly. It just, a lot of audiobooks kind of have like that old-timey radio feel to them, but I really did enjoy listening to the Light Horse one. There's another mech, the Bungle Tech, and he sat there and read part of my Airs Above. He read like the first third of it on his podcast, and I thought he did a magnificent job. It was fascinating hearing my story read aloud like that. Just shout out to him. He made it. I wrote the stupid story. I know every word of that story, and he made it feel like I was experiencing it in a different way. So I'm kind of digging the audiobooks. I'm trying to get more into them.
So while you were talking, Jason, I went through and looked at what had been recently released on Audible, and on the 28th, the No Greater Honor anthology was released. Yeah. So for anybody out there that's looking for a new audiobook to listen to, that just came out on Audible.
Yes, and shout out to the voice actors in that anthology. They did an amazing job.
Yeah, they're really good.
I have a quick question for you.
Go for it, John.
Jason. So, like, in the beginning of BattleTech, right, there's, like, some people who kind of, like, write BattleTech or Battle Mechs as being, like, walking tanks. And then there's some people who kind of write it like World War II infantrymen, but they're in a giant robot. You know what I mean? And there's always, like reading some of the books, like, there's different takes on that. And I think even now it's kind of ambiguous, like, how they behave. Like, where do you kind of land on that? Like, do you view them as, like, the mechanized element of a force?
Oh, I see what you're saying. That's BattleTech doesn't really line up a lot with modern military doctrine. They're kind of all of it,
No.
So they're kind of like walking tanks, battle mechs. For the pilots, and this is me personally. Unless the character is deliberately written as a mercenary, like Mercenary Brants or stuff like that, where there's a lot less military decorum, every mech warrior and every scene I try and write where nobody is stupid. Because these are all military officers. They've all gone up through the academy. They've all had years of training. They might make military mistakes. They might turn left when they're supposed to turn right. But there's nothing, they're not dumb. So that's just me personally, though. I try to write all the mech warriors as professionals. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it answers a different question, but yeah. Yeah.
There are no stupid officers in the military. That's just not possible.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's got 10%.
Hey, you said it's not me.
No, they're dumb officers, but they're not unprofessional ones. At least I try not to write them that way, if that makes sense. But I do have to remember that BattleTech is not the Army. In the Those Who Stand High, the officer, she beds down and she has sex with, the civilian. She's like, you know what? I'm going to get laid tonight. That would 100% be a court-martialable offense in pretty much any army in the world. But not BattleTech. BattleTech's like, hey, get it, girl. So, yeah.
With a civilian, they don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. So long as that one does filthy and listed.
I do have to check myself every so often.
Yeah.
The Army's not hard, Don't get a DUI, don't bang your Joes, You can retire from it if you disobey 2 things.
Pretty simple.
Oh yeah,
rules.
it's that dude's son though. I remember that. I like that scene. He like pulls up in the truck and he pulls out and he's got like old Comstar papers. And
If
they're
you
like
look
Comstar
in the Battle of Terra source book, there was a fight at Gunnison. They got trapped because the stupid Gunnison garrison was locked. And there's like a list of about 7 mech warriors. He's on the list. And he's in a stalker. Yeah, no
way.
Deep cut.
Let's go. That rules.
My stories are full of deep cuts that people never find. But yeah.
I'm feeling like you're the Easter egg king, man.
Yeah,
that's incredible, dude. That's awesome.
I think people need to reread some things and really think about them instead of just going, "Oh, this is kind of neat. There's some stompy robots there. Let me shoot those things."
Read a book, Dave.
Exactly. Read a book.
Trial most acceptable will make you think.
I am amazed at the reception that story has gotten. I am so thrilled.
It's I read it. I was like, Protomechs are cool, dude. This guy's awesome. With the way you describe like how they're inside and how they have all the imaging and stuff, and how they're like sharing like mind space and they're like dying together. I love that. I was
that
like
was another
enthralled
editorial pushback.
With the Protomech.
I'd kind of written them more as like big elementals. We're kind of halfway between elementals and battle mechs. And Phil pushed back. He's like, this isn't working. He's like, they're different. Reread these sections about the EI system and, rewrite it. And I was really just like beating my head against the table. Like, I'm like, how? And I'm like, okay, if I was writing in a different universe, what would I do? If I was writing in like another cyberpunk universe, and I'm like, and then I came up with the idea they can feel each other, they see and stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this full sci-fi. I'm going to push this until they tell me to stop.
Yeah.
And I am 100% thrilled. And anybody who likes the story should, give a shout out to Phil Lee, because his pushback made this story better. And made Protomech something unique. They're totally different from anything else in the Battletech universe now.
And they shouldn't be allowed on the table because they're bastards.
That one's in, if anyone wants to know, that one's in Shrapnel number 10.
I started writing that.
Yeah.
Screw Protomechs.
There was a lack, though, of angrily, swatting your tails and cat noises. I will say that much.
There was another good Protomech story in the last Shrapnel. I think Jeff Swift wrote it.
The last.
Talked about the last Protomech pilot.
Yeah.
That was kind of neat too. You know.
In the Delphine, that one was cool. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
There's
like good stuff out
almost
there.
acceptable. The fans have really enjoyed it. They really have kind of like, wait, Hell's Horses are kind of cool. The Spicy Kelpies. Am I a fan now?
That's. I mean, sometimes you think you don't care. I don't care about a faction or a unit or whatever, and then I read a story and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you kind of jump on the bandwagon based on what your experience is with them. I remember being an Icellian fan for a little while back in like 04, 05.
Yeah.
The more they flesh out the different factions, the better, because it gets people away from the Canopian obsession.
There's definitely that.
Ben, why are you so worried about the Canopians?
Because it's weird.
Sorry, David.
I thought you said Canopian. I'm like, what does Obi-Wan have to do with this?
Is that you guys are more plugged into the scene? Is there? I didn't realize. Is there a large contingent of Canopian players? Is that a thing?
No, they're not a large contingent of Canopian players. There's just a large contingent of players or people, fans that are obsessed with cat girls, and it's weird.
Yes, I see.
One is too many.
Yes, the cat girls. Yes, yeah.
All from one art
one
image
line
in
like
one source book.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I got butterflies. I'm gonna run with it.
Yeah.
You would, John.
Hansen, I want to say he mentioned the Periphery, first edition. That book. I got a PDF. You can find a PDF of that on the Catalyst store. That's a pretty good scan.
Yes.
The physicals are hard to find. That book rules. If anyone's listening, check the art is like crazy. It's so cool. It's got that heavy metal. Everything looks so heavy metal. It's
Absolutely.
it's such a cool book. And there's a lot of text. I haven't read the whole thing. It's like, oh man, there's like a lot in here. It's a really cool book.
Yeah, when you dive into a lot of those old source books, especially like the original House books, the original Star League book, the original Periphery book, the art in there is quintessentially 80s type art,
It rules.
but there's so much information in there about like the social structures and the religious aspects of every great house and everything like that. And
yeah, those guys they were going wild.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It's awesome.
That was the Wild West back then.
Yeah.
Since we got all the lore guys on, my impression is BattleTech has like remarkably little retconning, especially for how long it's been running. Like compared to like Star Trek or like Star Wars. Like, do you guys think that's true too?
No.
Am I just ignorant?
It has remarkably little retconning, especially because most source books are written in universe. Like when you find an error, I can fix it, or the other writers can fix it, or it can come out in a rec guide and be fixed. So, yeah, I think that the continuity stuff kind of gets smoothed over just because it's like, oh well, they just mistranslated it, or oh, they weren't there in the room. So
yeah, there's some of that where I ran into it when I wrote the Turning Points, that like I had to tie two units together that had been mentioned as being part of the same thing or different areas at different times, and so I had to kind of tie those things in together. And that's the retcon, is somebody makes a new book and goes, let's make sure you tie those things up, and cross that T on that. Jason, so I added a question in here that I didn't prep you for. What with the Oakland era coming out and a lot of this new resurgence of BattleTech and the fiction, with the Ilclan era, are there any stories that you want to tell?
Yes. I'll split this into two. One, I've been very lucky. I can't talk much about it, but I made a pitch to Ray during Gen Con in the Ilclan era, and they said yes, and I submitted that to John right before. I mean, I literally flew down here to Texas and then edited it one more time and sent it in. I have no idea when it's going to come out. It's all mystery to me. I'm just a freelancer. I'm super excited, though. I think people will dig it, so I'm thrilled for that one. And the other half of the question is yes. In a perfect world, I would love to tell the story of whatever's going on with the Lyrans. I have no idea what's going on with the Lyrans. CGL, for those who aren't, it's like the French Maquis. Everything is in cells. I'm just a freelancer, so I'm told nothing. So I have no idea what is going on in the universe. There's me, the writer, and there's me, the fan. And as a fan, I'm just as excited as anybody else. So, but yes, if I had my druthers, if somebody came to me and said, okay, you can write any novel you want, that would be the story I would love to tell. So, but I am excited about the era. I'm excited about the direction. I know there's a lot of controversy about Dominions Divided. Just kind of people feel like kind of the Ghost Bears are done dirty, that it should have been fleshed out a little bit more. I would love to do more fleshing out. I'm excited about the whole universe and everything going on, and I can't wait to see what comes next. And I'm hoping to be part of it too. I'm gonna need a new set of sheets.
Yeah, we'll say based off the stuff I've read recently, because I'm like bouncing back and forth between like OG books and current books, which can mess with your brain timeline a little bit. But for the current era, we've gotten a lot of information from the Wolf Empire, the Jade Falcon Occupation Zone, the Rossahog Dominion, Ghost Bear Dominion, whichever one you want to call it.
It's the Ghost Bear. It's the Rossahog Dominion.
We've had
the CGL is very factions evolve or factions die, and so it's they're the Dominion. They're not no longer the Ghost Bears nor the Rossahog Republic. They're something unique and new now. So.
Yeah, the Ghost Bears are now the military element of the Rossahog. Yeah. And then with we've also got new information for the Federated Sons and the Draconis Combine through what book was that? I just read it. Yes, Damocles
Sanction.
And then we've had some relatively current. I may be missing a few books, information from the Liao region of the sphere.
Yeah.
At least prior to the Battle for Terra, but we haven't.
No.
I don't think we've had a lot of information for the Lyrans.
That is the question. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Lyrans also. But yeah, because in Tamar Rising, they kind of touch a little bit that Trillion is kind of in the weeds, but it doesn't really.
Yeah,
right, it focuses mostly on the Elenium Mercantile League and the Vesper marches and whatnot.
it's on their borders essentially, but not like the Lyrans themselves.
Yeah, but also
they're going through some shit for sure.
But yeah, that is the question. I'm always like, what are the Capellans up to, dude?
Sneaky stuff.
What's going on over there? It's suspicious. Yeah, it's suspicious.
Yeah,
I got you guys.
I think
I got you guys covered. It's pork schnitzel and depression for the Lyra.
Because the most recent stories we have from the Capellan region that I'm aware of, and I could be behind, because I'm very behind, was the Highlander stories prior to the Terra invasion, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that's the most recent we got.
Snippet in the, I want to say it's Michael Ciervella's new Highlander part of the Merc Tales. You know, that they're sending just waves of mercenaries against them. The Merc Tales are great. I loved Randall's story.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that my story was the second time that Randall had a kind of a quiet political story, because it also happens in No Greater Honor. Randall's story is directly in front of mine. He's got kind of a quiet political story, and then I just kick in the door to throw in a frag grenade.
Yes. Oh yeah, innocent.
Yes.
Comma.
I had to fight for that comma.
Good.
Yeah.
Good comma.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that. That was yes.
Yeah. That
Very good.
So the current Ilklin era black areas of knowledge is the Lyrans and the Capellans.
Terra. And
right.
Yeah, because he ain't talking to nobody. There's a whole source book on Empire. I don't know. Maybe it's alone.
See, it's kind of nice because I can sit here and drink a beer and be on a podcast, and I can't spoil anything because I don't know anything.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? The beauties of being a freelancer, man.
We're here for you, bud.
It's like a resistance cell. It's like if they capture him, he doesn't know anything.
Exactly.
They can't.
Exactly. All right. One final question off of our list, and then we'll open it up to any additional questions we got going on. Jason, do you have any advice for up and coming writers, new writers, how to write?
Yes. Okay. In order to write well, you need to read. So for anybody who wants to write BattleTech, read. If you want to submit to Shrapnel, read the Shrapnels. I love Mike Stackpole. I've met him. It's like fangirling so hard. But Mike Stackpole's trilogy is not going to set you up for success to write a 5,000-word shrapnel story. Read the Shrapnels. Read the vibe. Right. Get the vibe of the universe. Get the vibe of how short a story can be. So to write well, you have to read well. Number 2, have a thick skin. Everybody gets their first stories are rejected. Your first stories are going to suck. I'm sorry for anybody out there who thinks that you are going to write amazing stories right out the bat. No, you're going to suck. It's just the name of the game. Nobody, no great writer, their first stories were rejected. If you can find a group of friends to sit there and read your stuff, like I said back in the beginning of this podcast, me and Craig Reed were in a group of potential BattleTech writers. We read each other's stuff. We gave advice. We gave, hey, this is not working. Cut this, trim this, go with this, and see where it takes you. So find some friends, and then obey the submission guidelines. There's going to be a new guideline added in, I believe. Phil noticed it wasn't in the boilerplate. Shrapnel does not want your 47-piece novel. They don't want your serial. They don't. It one and done. If Phil likes it and he thinks that there's more to go, then he'll ask you, hey, give me a sequel on this. Like I said, that was a long-standing Battlecore rule, and that's one of the reasons why I don't have any sequels, because Schmetzer would have kicked him back in an instant. It was a Battlecore. It was on the submission page for Battlecore, and for whatever reason, it's not in Shrapnel. But no sequels, one and done. Don't tell the story of your character. We don't care. Nobody wants to sit there and read your story about how you and Natasha Kerensky are going to make out by Lake Erie or whatever, And Tell an honest story. And tell small stories. Sometimes I still can't believe I got away with Irreplaceable. If I'd had any sense in my brains, I would not have submitted a Hans Davian story until I had like 10 years under my belt.
It's such a huge swing.
It is. I swung for the fences because I was too dumb to know I shouldn't be swinging for the fences.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of the exception that proves the rule. Don't do it. Find a small, and even in big battles, the Battle of Hesperus, which is like 13 or 18 of, you can tell the story about a lance. You can tell the story about a tanker. Find a small story and tell that honest story. So
Yeah.
I guess that would be my advice.
Excellent.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with 100% of that. Your first story is going to get kicked back. It's going to have different stuff that you have to kind of consider and think about. And the only other thing I'd say, if
Yes,
do your research. You hit on the head with reading the universe, reading the stuff, but do your research, because the story's going to go from, once it gets past the editors, it's going to go to the fact check guys. And the fact check guys do an awesome job of just kind of picking apart the story, going, this doesn't line up with the timeline, or this mech wasn't there, or this vehicle wasn't available, or, to this faction.
and that
so
is
make sure you do your research.
huge, because there are some stories that get kicked back because they're just you can't tell that story in that time period with that. And then there's some stories that, with significant rewriting, it could be fixed. But then the editor has to decide, am I going to sink my energy? Because, Phil, the editor of Shrapnel, he's only got so many spoons. He's only got so many hours in the day, and if you come in with a piece that's decent, but is a fact-check nightmare, does he want to dedicate his time and the fact-check time to your story when there's another story right there in the queue that's better and continuity? So, yeah, you are spot on, dude. Do your research. Get it as close as you can. Everybody makes mistakes. I did. My first draft of Innocent Defenseless,
Yep.
My brain flipped two numbers for when a year of a mech came out. I want to say it was a Spartan, and I had a Spartan in there. And they're like, ooh, that comes out 9 years later. I'm like, damn it. So I had to... But, yeah, everybody makes mistakes. Even I'll still make the small continuity errors. But you want to get it professional level. This is the job. When you decide to become a writer, you've decided to do homework for the rest of your life. And every single pitch, you are asking for a part-time job. Dear Phil and John, I want to work for you. I will be professional. Please pay me money for my writing. You don't come in with some junk. You wouldn't sit there and walk into a regular job like that. Writing, Catalyst is a company. They pay real money, and they want good writing. So if you treat it like a job, you treat it with respect, and you do the best job you can at writing, then you'll do it. Just keep working at it. Sorry, that's my soapbox. A lot of people...
Great advice.
A lot of people are like,
No,
no
worries,
thought
man.
about writing.
No worries.
That was
I'm
real.
like, well, then do it. I'm like, but
Do it.
I think it's easy.
Yeah, it's like I told somebody a couple weeks ago. I was like, the hardest part about writing is really just sitting down and starting to write.
That's
Even
what I was
if
about
it's-
to bring up. Yeah.
Yeah, even if it's just just put stuff on a page, outline what you want to do, and start from there.
And people think it's easy
So-
until they try it. People think it's it's all cigars and glory over here. It's hard.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Yeah.
50% of writers make less than $5,000 a year. So do not quit your day job.
No, do
Yeah.
not do that.
Yeah. I'm in Texas for
Do
my
not
real
do that.
job. I'll be writing after the
So-
podcast for the fun job.
No.
Great advice.
Well, I think that kind of wraps up our questions. Does anybody have any additional save rounds on this? Any other questions that they want to pop in? I'll open the floor up.
I think I got everything. What did I? My notes.
Yeah, the only story I've read, and my apologies, Jason. The only story of yours that I've read so far is The Third Pillar. And again, I loved it.
It's a good one.
But I started reading BattleTech novels 2-ish years ago, and I'm not a fast reader by any means. My wife is 500 times faster than I when it comes to reading. She can read a whole Stephen King novel in a day.
Just go on a deployment.
Yeah, oh my god. But yeah, so I've only read one story of yours so far,
I thank you, buddy.
and I loved it.
It's one of my personal heartfelt favorites. It means a lot.
That's what's so cool about the short stories, though, right? You don't have to like choke down like a whole novel, you know? It's just like, yeah, man, you just sit down for an hour and just, I always think of it like it's like, man, you play like a whole BattleTech movie in your head, you know? Just sit down at the, I love it. I love the short story format.
Yeah,
perfect.
If people want to haven't read any of your stories, Jason, and they want to get started, which one would you suggest?
I would point them towards No Greater Honor. Honestly, if Mike hasn't read a lot of the BattleTech stuff, I think No Greater Honor, following a unit from the beginning all the way to the Ilkhan era, gives you a great spread of both the BattleTech timeline and different feels from different writers. So that
I'm getting there. I have it. I'm just not in it yet.
I know what I'm going to be listening to for the next week on my drives to work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an audiobook. Yeah,
read,
you can
Dave. Read.
There is an audiobook.
Find a way to create more time in the day, and I will read more.
Use your eyeballs.
Whichever anthology has Irreplaceable in it is a good one. Frontlines? I think there's a Kevin Claney one in there, too.
Yeah. Frontlines also, right. Something More. And
okay, well, then I guess that's my second choice. I'm better at this than I thought I was.
Yeah. I have one note. Yeah. I wasn't gonna I was just trying to go with the flow.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask about Old Rules of Hire from Shrapnel 8. That story rules with it's the what is it? It's like this chess match. It's like the two commanders and he's like leaving notes for her. Oh, because they're like, they're not supposed to be here. They're like in the water when they show up. There's like spotters like under the ice. And I love this whole like chess match situation. And then they're my favorite when she brings the mechs out and they're like marching in like a strange formation. And the guy's like, what is this? And the dude's like, he's like, oh, I know this. They're crossing the T, sir. And he's like, what? And he's like, it's like an old Navy thing. And he's like, what? How do we counteract it? And he's like, I don't know, submarines. It usually works. I was like, this is so good.
That one was really hard to write because when you have two commanders and the Lao commander, whose name I can't remember, I think Song, she's listed in the source books as teaching at the academies. So she is one of their best. She's the cutting edge of doctrine, and you've got this other guy who is absolutely top of the line, best of the best, and they're fighting each other. So I wanted to tell this story about two commanders trying to outwit each other, but that means I have to be smarter than both to write it. So it was a great story and fun story to write, but it was hard because I had to come up with new ideas for two characters to outwit each other. Because I knew how I wanted it to end, but getting there was very tricky because it had to work. Like the crossing the T thing, it has to work for the readers. It all had to make sense. Everything they were doing, it needed to make sense and be honest to the readers because otherwise the whole story falls apart. So that was tricky to write.
Well, Jason, you could always integrate Clausewitz into some of your stories.
I am a Gemini fan, my friend. Mass. Mass overcomes. The bombers get through.
And for anyone who doesn't know, I'm referring to On War by Karl von Clausewitz. It's a required reading for
Army officers.
Us Army officers.
Yes, it's
awful.
No, it's not.
Wait,
it's great information, but God, it sucks to read.
My son wanted a copy.
You read?
When I was being paid to read it, so
asked for a copy of Sun Tzu's Art of War for Christmas, and so we got him a copy, right? And he's been reading it and memorizing it and citing it, and it is very frustrating. That's from Chapter 7.
You should.
Everyone's getting the Art of War in this Kickstarter now. Yeah.
Dude, it's so funny when it's like, we'll send you a copy of The Art of War annotated by Jamie Wolfe. I was like, excuse me? Like, this.
That is going on my desk at work just because I want to make sure that people see it and they think that I'm super, well read, and then they'll look at it closely and they'll be like, wait a minute, that's BattleTech.
It's a game thing.
I'm super interested in these Jamie Wolfe cliff notes of The Art of War. 100%.
I'm curious to know who's writing it. I have no clue. Like I said, Marquis.
Right.
Was Clausewitz the war's diplomacy by other means?
Yes.
Or is that someone else?
Yes, Clausewitz.
Good guy. Of course, those Germans would think that.
Damn right.
Well, I guess that's probably a pretty good transition into the Kickstarter.
Yeah, I think that probably that wraps up our main medal. Let's move into the returning report. So yeah, let's just go around the table and talk about what our first impressions are with the Kickstarter launch of last Friday, and what we think about the stretch goals. So let's start it off with Matt, since I know Matt's been kind of quiet.
I'm here.
Are you?
I am 100%. I was excited for the Kickstarter, but I think I may have a different kind of gist on it than some people that have maybe complained a little bit. I was more about kind of supporting kind of development, the future, and I know that some of the Kickstarter money, at least, will go towards that. I am looking forward to getting all the new minis, but I'm not too concerned about I need my minis to be $1 cheaper than I can get them at the store or something like that. So initially, I'm just excited to get all the vehicles, all the new plastic, because I like to have that mound of gray just sitting on my desk over there.
Because how else would we have a pile of shame segment without the pile of shame?
And I've got I've got over a year to whittle through what I've got here. So
I still have Clan Invasion stuff that's just primed and has been sitting in my garage for over a year.
I mean, I'm just really excited for the continuation of the momentum driven by the Clan Invasion Kickstarter. And so I bought in at Regiment. It is kind of odd that there's no differentiation between battalion and regiment. That is something that I think is odd. Otherwise, I'm just excited to buy into things. And then for me, myself, all the stretch goals is just free stuff. Because I'm not I need to get, I'm counting on the stretch goals to bring down my miniatures cost. That's not what I'm about. I'm about buying into the company and having them push more new stuff out, whether it be fiction or miniatures, whatever it is. I just love the universe. Really like Catalyst as a company, so I'm okay buying in at $500. It fits my financial situation. Whatever free stuff comes our way because of stretch goals, awesome. That's my take on things.
I respect it.
John, any thoughts?
Okay, Mary Antoinette. I don't know. I'm fine with it. I think it's just like a pre-order, right? This version, more or less.
Yeah, that's what I'm taking it as.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you view it as a pre-order, you get some free goodies for pre-ordering, get some swag, get some extra stuff. That's fine. It's not it's as exciting as the first two, because the first two were just throwing gobs of stuff on, but then they took forever to fulfill. So
right.
First two? What do you mean first two?
Yeah, wasn't it the first one and then Clan Invasion? Weren't they 2 waves?
Clan Invasion was a singular Kickstarter that had 2 waves, but I'm not aware of another
Get him, Mike.
Kickstarter.
Get him.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be a dick or anything.
Well, you succeeded.
Heyo.
Okay, yeah, 2 waves. My bad. I'll be honest. I'm not.
Here's John just trying to give his opinion, and then Mike jumps in and just is like, "I'm a dick."
Bam.
You're wrong.
Mike's like, I waited 2 years for those minis.
I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything.
Wait, did I miss out on a Kickstarter?
Yeah,
I could have spent more money. What?
And
No,
anyways,
I think the $500 level is really good too. I personally don't care too much about the stretch goal stuff. I just want the minis. So, lots of salvage packs, lots of box sets. So I'm good with it.
Mike, you have thoughts?
I have thoughts. They're not ridiculous by any means. I backed Regiment. As time has progressed over the past weekish or so, I don't know. I guess I love the Kickstarter. I went Star Captain for Clan Invasion, which means I didn't get the whole double force packs and everything else that a large majority of folks are upset about because it's not a part of this one. Because Catalyst is a company and they need to make money. And I respect that. I understand that. So I'm not in it for double force packs, this, that, and the other. But with now, I don't know. Their initial stretch goals went out to 2 mil, right? Clearly, they underestimated the resurgence.
Slightly.
That
Just slightly.
only partially. The resurgence that the community and the previous Kickstarter had. And we blew 3 million within 24 hours to the point they were scrambling for additional stretch goals. And they're relatively okay, in my opinion, stretch goals. What was it, the 2.5 mil one, where it was like you get the audiobook of No Greater Honor. I think that's what the 2.5 was.
Yeah.
Was a quick fix, like, here you go. And I don't know many who are like, that's awesome. Because when you look at the stretch goals that were already established, that's clearly a quick fix band-aid. I don't know. I backed Regiment. I'm not going to reduce it by any means, because I did Star Captain, Clan Invasion, and I still spent all the additional money to get every single individual pack that I didn't already get through the Kickstarter. So I'm just looking for I'm gonna get it all right now, because I'm going to get it anyways, because I don't know. I'm a slave to the IP at this point, and I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, all you have to do is put in another $128,000 and you'll get another 2 force packs.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but,
We're gonna hit the
Battalion
5.
gets the same 2 force packs.
And that's where I'm getting to. Battalion, with all of the stretch goals, post 2 mil, there's no differentiation between Battalion and Regiment is almost twice the pledge. Like, because Battalion is 275, Regiment's 500. And I didn't even blink. I was like, boom, I'm going 500. I'm getting my Regiment.
Yeah.
Didn't even blink, didn't even bat an eye. But when I see all these additional stretch goals, I'm like, okay, where's the love for Regiment? Because like we pledged double essentially off rip, and I just want and that's part of the draw of a Kickstarter, right? We want our own additional unique swag and bonus and this, that, and the other. Like, I get it. We're getting the
City Map Pack and the Legends 2 book, Legends 2 book, I think.
Yeah, but like all of the additional stretch goals that have been thrown out post haste, or however it's called. I don't know. I'm drinking. It just seems like everything stops at Battalion. It's Battalion up. And I've seen a lot of conversation about, well, I'm going to reduce my pledge from Regiment down to Battalion. And I think from a business perspective and raising funds for the, future production of product, especially during a Kickstarter, you need to give that little bit not even a lot, just a little bit extra love to those that didn't even because
Didn't do the math.
Yeah, the Regiment is almost double the pledge, and we're getting the exact same stretch goal support post 2 mil as Battalion. Everything's Battalion up. If you want to push people,
I actually will disagree with you, Mike.
But
because
if you want to push people to Regiment, you need to give that little extra, because now we've got a lot of people doing double Battalion, which is slightly more. I will admit, which is slightly more than Regiment. But I don't know. I just think Regiment should get a little bit extra love. But I'll pass it off to you, Dave.
So I guess the way I look at it is, I think it would probably come down to how many people backed at the Battalion level versus how many people backed at the Regiment level. Because if you figure a $30 per force pack cost, notional costs to what these new force packs are going to run, because they're going to be probably all over the place from $30 to $35.
And that's another thing that I've told multiple people so far, because they're like, oh, well, the previous Intersphere Force Packs was approximately $5 per mini. An Intersphere Force Pack was $20. And I'm like, okay, well, a lot has changed in 3 years. Inflation and all the other stuff has blown up. And that's like, they need to account for that. And I respect that. And I'm trying to, a lot of other people are upset that like they're not the same MSRP for 4 plastic minis. I'm like, well, a lot has changed since the last one. Like a lot. So I understand
Mike's
that.
not passionate about this at all.
I understand that and I respect that. Which is why I try to talk down those people from that ledge of like, oh, well, this is more expensive. I'm not getting as much as I used to. And I'm like, okay, well, this wasn't that was 3 years ago.
The real point that I was trying to make is
I'm sorry.
Is that the Clan Invasion Kickstarter was unique. It was one of the first kind of toe dips that Catalyst took into trying the Kickstarter model. So I think they went almost too big with the Clan Invasion. I think especially with the double force pack. It set a precedent that was untenable for the future. So with the battalion and the regiment force packs, I think that the difference between 6 force packs versus 12 force packs plus the extra swag, I think that makes up for the $125 difference or $225 difference in the 2 levels. And I am completely okay as a backer and as a player that the battalion people that are investing $275 to start are getting the same bonuses that I am, because I'm in a better financial position to put $500 straight up. So I think that by giving the bonuses to both battalion level backers and regimental backers is good for the community. Yes, there's a little bit of boo-hoo, I didn't get more than a battalion backer, but at the same time, you're still getting a whole bunch of BattleTech stuff for way more than is worth at the price you're paying for it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll even play devil advocate for my own argument, and that's now a lot of people are upset that Clan Invasion with the first Kickstarter, Catalyst super underestimated the response and everything. So they pledged, or they assigned the double force pack, and that's what now has a lot of people upset that that's not even a thing. Guys, you got to remember, it's a business. They
also
learned.
A small company.
It's a small company and it's a business. They learned from the last one where they could have made so much more money. You gotta respect. It's a business. So I don't care about not having the double force packs for this one. I just would like a little bit extra for regiment being almost a double pledge. Then everything is Italian up.
You're getting twice as much as a battalion. You're getting double the number of force packs. You're getting double the number of swag things. You're getting double the number of coins. The only thing you're not getting a double of is the stupid 4-inch Mad Cat, which is dumb, but that's just me.
The regiment level, you get that Encounters BattleTech game, that like board
we do
game
get the Encounters BattleTech game.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Which, and from the traffic I've seen on the Discords and stuff like that, it's mainly, I think, people are in it for the minis, and I get that piece of it. There's a lot of that going around. But I see a lot of guys and a lot of folks, not guys, but a lot of folks talking about, I pledged a regiment. You know what? Battalion's getting the same perks as a regiment, so I'm going to drop mine and do just a double battalion, and pay the extra $50 because I was already.
But with a battalion, with the regiment, you can get all the force packs up front. You don't have to wait for them to hit retail.
Yeah, and like in the grand scheme of things, like I don't intend whatsoever to reduce my pledge and go down to battalion or double battalion. Like I'm keeping that at regiment. Like I was saying earlier, I was just hoping for a little bit extra exclusivity for that nearly double pledge.
Yeah, I mean,
but in
like
the
I
grand
said
scheme
earlier,
of things, I'm still very happy with the Kickstarter. I think all the products are great. I think all the minis are great. When we talked in the 7.5 mid-month, the last episode, I love all of it. I am so excited. I love the Kickstarter. I think it's going in a great direction. I think they're doing the best they can with adding additional stretch goals. Holy fuck, do I want a cookbook? Like,
Yeah.
holy
Right?
shit. You know? Like, I'm super excited for all of it. I'm not trying to throw mad
There's a
shade
fucking
by any
cookbook?
means.
yeah,
Oh
there's a cookbook
yeah,
Cookbook
man. The
for the
7 mil stretch goal is a
Yeah,
cookbook.
dude. Curd of
with a
Blake,
drink section.
All
Oh,
of it.
That's what I'm
seven,
excited about.
7 mil.
Wolf's
Oh, okay.
Wolf's
Yeah.
Rangoons.
Yeah,
Dude.
all of it. Like, I'm
Macaroni
so
and
excited.
cheese.
I love this Kickstarter. I love everything that's going on. I may have spent a little too much time with my, in the grand scheme of things, slightly saltiness. But overall, I'm so stoked. I love it. I think they're doing a great job. And I'm just so excited. I just hope it gets delivered to me before I move back home.
Don't worry. If it shows up to your house, I will go get it for you and tell you it never got there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
What are
so
friends for?
Nice.
Canaan, what do you think, man? What do you think? We've heard enough about Mike.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Canaan, what do you think about the Kickstarter?
Yeah, it's cool. I watched the whole Adepticon live stream. That was tight. All the panels and stuff. I had a good time watching that. I threw in. I did the I'm at the battalion level, not the regiment. Which yeah, like Mike said, I'm totally, as the stretch goals increase, I'm getting all the stuff. It is sweet. It did feel like the sweet spot, right? When I like looked at it, I was like, for me, just kind of a guy, building up my collection. And I don't even know when we're gonna get this stuff, right? It probably takes a while, to fulfill all the orders. I don't even know if they said, but
Probably at
yeah,
least a year.
Yeah,
Right.
it said June 2024 was their goal to get it out to everybody.
interesting. Okay, but yeah, this seemed like the sweet spot for me. I threw in. This is cool. I'm excited for the stuff though. I want these tanks and these helicopters and stuff. All these books. It's cool. I'm getting all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm chill with it. I want this. I'm into this like universe book. This thing's interesting.
Oh, yes.
I
And
do
they got,
want
like,
that.
Yeah, and like you can get the special edition, and it's like this huge. It's like a steel slab. Is the
Yep,
only
I'm throwing
photo
in the
they have?
$200 for that.
Yeah, they're like, here's a steel slab. It's like the universe book, and I was like, heck yeah, dude, I want this thing. This is tight.
Hansa, did you write anything for the universe book?
Nope. I've done very little on the nonfiction side. I call that the
No?
nonfiction side, the source book. Yeah, I call that
nonfiction.
Yes. Yes.
That's so good.
No,
Yeah, I've got some stuff.
I
in
don't
there,
know
so
how
that'll
the
be fun.
nonfiction side works. I've only been asked once. I'm super excited for when that thing comes out. But no, generally I hang out over here on the fiction side and just do my thing. So
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
two opposite
yeah.
sides of the coin on that one, man.
I'm excited for these graphic novels because I've always thought, dude, BattleTech would
Yeah.
translate well into a graphic novel format, though, too.
My,
These mech
Yeah.
battles would be tight.
my boys are so
And,
excited for
yeah.
those, man.
Yeah, I always wanted to see it. I just always thought it would translate really well. Just the mech battles, you can talk about lasers melting off a ton of armor on the left side or whatever, or you could
they
just
say pictures say say
it's,
1,000 words. The
I'm really excited.
graphic novels, I would love it just
Yeah.
because there's things you have to write that a picture in a graphic novel will just show. Yeah, super psyched.
Right. I do. I want the right. Shout outs to the BattleTech writers talking about lasers melting armor.
Reveal.
Missiles pitting armor. It's they have to get so. You guys have to get so creative with it. I see you. I see. They're always. They do such a good job of portraying mech battles in prose in like an interesting, well-paced way with it's clearly a challenge. Like you can see it when you read it. You're like, oh yeah, he worked hard on this. But yeah, graphic novels. That's honestly I am. I'm super hyped for the graphic novels. And but yeah, I threw in. I'm having a good time. I don't really have any thoughts about value. I didn't think about it. I just
fair.
I just signed up. I just signed up and I'm excited.
Cool.
It's,
Hansa, the player, what do you think about the Kickstarter?
I am super excited. I am, because of, one of the things I like about the Kickstarter is all you guys are, big money bags rolling in, with your big community chest cards. We had
No, it's just the card the wife doesn't know about. I already covered
we had to
that.
replace our heater like a year ago and the air conditioner like a year before that. So the credit card is pretty maxed at the old Hansa household, and working it down has been a thing. So I came in at I want to say, is it Veteran, the one below company, like at $80 or something like that?
Yeah.
And
I think so. Yeah.
And I added on a couple of extra swags because my boys love the keychains and crap like that. And I'm just kind of I know that I'm just going to have to pick up the force packs at retail prices down the road. But on the other hand, I want to give a shout out to Waterloo Games up on the north side of Richmond and Battlegrounds down on the southwest side. Waterloo especially has been just a massive support to the BattleTech fan base. And Battlegrounds is where I've been playing every other Saturday for 9 years. So obviously they support BattleTech too. And so having to pay an extra $5 or whatever the money comes out to a year and a half from now to support my local game stores and not put against a credit card, that's kind of like the devil's bargain I'm okay with. And I like the fact that the Kickstarter has enough value down here at the old Hansa household level that it's still, because of all the stretch goals.
Yeah,
I'm still making out like a bandit. I mean, this is probably illegal, like a Victoria era. I'd be hung as a ne'er-do-well. So I love that about the Kickstarter, that there is tremendous amount of backers all the way up to the Ilcon value, down here to $80. I'm honestly thinking, because of the way the stretch goals have fallen out, at the end I'll probably bump up from veteran up to company. I'll probably knock off, because I picked up an extra 3 force packs, I think. So I'll probably, trim my Kickstarter, to fine tune it, to keep it. I want to say I threw in $250 total, for the extra swag and the extra force packs, and I'll probably trim that. I might go up to company and then trim back a couple of force packs. But I think that's, in my personal opinion, I think that's really one of the good parts, is there's kind of a spread of options. You can come in at whatever level is you can financially afford. I also, I was, as a player, was very surprised. I'm like, how did you guys not see this coming? Every podcast, Tex and a Big Red, and everybody's like, oh, this is going to be huge. They're going to make $1.5 million an hour, and CGL's like, nah, we'll be lucky if we'll be lucky if we make our 40 grand. And I'm like, how did you not see this tsunami coming?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was initially surprised with the max stretch goal of 2 mil. I'm like, really?
I happened to be here in the hotel because I had my work computer on the morning, and I saw, I'm like, oh, it's 10 o'clock. So I logged in, and I did my Kickstarter at 10:04, and they were at $250,000. I'm like, oh, Christ, this is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Fucking huge.
I logged in at about 11:30 or whatever, and it was already 1.8. 1.7, 1.8, something like that, and I was like,
but the wave of emotion, because I watched a lot of the streams those days, and the wave of emotion as it blew past 1 million, it was just climbing, that overcame Lauren, Randall, and Ray. I mean, those three guys, they carried this IP through the dark years, and seeing it hit them, that's like, okay, this is great, this is really good, this is unexpectedly good. It kind of hit them all at different points. It hit Ray first, and then Randall and Lauren a little bit later on. Seeing that emotion in their eyes really just made me happy as a player, because they care about this just as much as we do. They care about it even more. I mean, so that's one of the things I love about it.
I think that's what makes BattleTech special, is that it is not run by a corporate entity that only cares about money. It is run by people who are actually passionate about the IP.
And they're players.
They love
they're players
game,
just like everybody else.
Players, and they're fans. Dude, last year at Gen Con, Ray told me that he likes my work, and I just about melted into the ground. I mean, because to know that he's the boss, but he also is a fan of me. Are you kidding me? So they're just what a wonderful company. I would drive down the gates of hell itself for these guys.
I think one of the incredible things, I mean, not just the amount, because the amount can be like affected by a lot of things like, inflation and stuff, but the number of backers, that's what I've been watching the most. And the number, the increase in the number of backers, that's what really makes me happy, is to see like the growth in people that find this to be like a good thing, even with the naysayers that are buying in and being like, I love this product, I want more of it. So I'm really excited about the number of backers that I see, over 17,000 now. So
yeah, and do you think back to the Clan Invasion Kickstarter? It was what? It topped out at 12, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Like 11, 12,000.
Yep.
Currently, as of right now, April 1st,
17,797 backers.
Yep, and 4.83 million pledged. So yeah, super excited.
Yes.
For the future.
Yeah. So let's since we've talked about kind of the growth of the game a little bit, let's roll into our unofficial launch party that took place up in here.
We should have been Texas.
We should have. Matt, you wanna you were the chief organizer of this whole thing. You want to talk about the Kickstarter or the launch party?
Booyah! Yeah, Ben, we had an awesome Kickstarter launch party at Hobbytown, Westminster. We just thought, since we didn't get an official invite to be special, I guess, that we'd classified ourselves as special and have just a party and just kind of have like some food and games and stuff. So threw something together at Hobbytown, Westminster, which is for those that aren't local, it's kind of north end of Denver. And it's been a store that's really supported us quite well for quite a while. We have Friday night fights there every Friday night. Good attendance with a good group of people coming from Denver and from all the way up to Fort Collins, where I come from, every other week. So it's a great place, great space. A shout out to them for really catering to us and trying to get BattleTech product on the shelves all the time. So we had 44 people show up. I think 44 was the last count.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a great time. They kind of gave us our own room that's kind of on the main floor. So we were streaming the stream from Adepticon. We had pizza and all sorts of treats and stuff. And we had all sorts of games going on. Randy had, I think, up to 6 players playing Solaris.
Yep.
And then Ben was running a test scenario for the Olympiad, I believe.
Yep.
Then we had John was running a massive Alpha Strike battle with like 6 or 8 people total. We had Manny doing another Alpha Strike battle. We had games going on everywhere.
Yeah. I think there was 5 tables of Classic going on, plus 3 tables of Alpha Strike going.
Yeah,
it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and lots of people coming through saying hi. Lots of people that hadn't played in a long time or were kind of coming back to the game. Surprised to hear that things were going so well, and really excited for the Kickstarter. So we just kind of funneled this into a nice night where we met a lot of new people and played a lot of great games. What did you think, John?
I thought it was a lot of fun. You and Ben did a great job of making sure that everyone felt welcome, and you guys got like pizzas and soda and everything, which was a lot of fun. I think we had almost like a dozen tables set up between Classic and Alpha Strike guys, so there was a lot of gaming, and it was fun seeing a lot of people just kind of show up from the woodwork that I'd never met before.
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun, and anytime that like one of these kind of niche, like nerdy things can draw in that big a crowd, I always feel good. This is the biggest BattleTech thing we've had so far in my experience.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure. Ben, what were your thoughts? And then, others.
I was blown away, man, by the amount of people that showed up. I mean, normally, Westminster Hobbytown's kind of me and John's normal gaming night on Friday nights, and on average, you'll get a handful, 5-10 people there every Friday night
I think
playing
we're
BattleTech.
between 8 and 10.
But
Every Friday?
yeah, I think it's growing. It's definitely growing, and I think the launch party really solidified that that's a place to come for. There was a lot of people that came. Trent Sparks' friend May and Aaron, they showed up. They're like, hell, we just live right down the road, and we played here, but we didn't know if BattleTech was going on Friday nights. And we're like, hell yeah, man, come on out.
Heck yeah.
So I was blown away just by the amount of people that showed up. I thought we'd have at most like 20, but it turned out way bigger than that.
I think
So I was impressed.
it was just like, it wasn't even super organized. Really, we kind of like organized it the weekend before or whatever. But
Right.
it really can't. It really, again, like I was talking about with the Kickstarter, it really kind of shows how the game's growing. But also, I've always really loved the community that we've had here for BattleTech. Just it always seems like a much more, I say, friendly game rather than other games that I've seen. And I don't really play many other games, but I've seen a lot more money and time put into things that are kind of into games that can be frustrating. Whereas when I generally see BattleTech players, it's not the players that they're mad at; it's their own dice, and I totally get that. But but the players and like the player community,
Bro, the dice though.
yeah. The player community, especially here, but anywhere I've gone to play BattleTech has always been great. So
Yeah, I mean, just as an example, I mean, Logan showed up and he brought a box of minis over and he's like, hey, I'm donating these. Just make sure everybody gets one, So it was just that little piece of the community where somebody's like, hey, you know what, I don't really use these. I don't have a use for them, but I've got them. Let me hand them off to somebody that might want them, and we were able to give a mini to everybody that showed up, which was really just a fantastic way of showing that community piece.
Was it fantastic?
It was fantastic.
It was fantastic.
What was
You guys are
the
gross.
when you guys? What was the ratio of like classic to like Alpha Strike? What was the did you guys play? I don't know, at your shop, at your were you guys playing mostly classic or Alpha Strike?
It was a mix. It was almost. I mean, you had what 3, 6, 12 guys, maybe 15 guys playing classic, and another 12, 15 playing Alpha Strike. So it was
Nice.
pretty even split. Plus, you had a lot of people just hanging out, just kind of watching and going, "Oh yeah, I remember this game." Hell, the one guy that was testing out my scenario, he's like, "I haven't played since the '80s." He's like, "Man, he's like, asking
Old
a bunch
school.
of questions and stuff like that." He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember this and remember this. This was Battle Droids, and it was just really cool to
Paddle
see
Droid.
people come."
That has been one
back
of the
to
most
the game,
exciting things, is seeing people, coming back to the game. And they're like, I think I still have some stuff back in my dad's house. And it's like, well, it's all still legal. Bring it. Your old mechs, put them on the
Yeah.
table. I mean,
Yep.
you're seeing a lot of that, of old mechs from the 80s from returning players right there next to the new plastic. And I love it. It is such an exciting time to be a player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so great.
Yeah,
So
and
great.
I think that's really one of the things with BattleTech here locally, at least. There's no like kind of stigma like, oh, you play classic, well, don't come here. It's really kind of open, like, oh, you like classic more, cool. We're playing Alpha Strike over here, but there's plenty of classic players, so it's really open, and especially at Hobby Town, like there's always kind of both, and we might try other things in the future. But
In
I really
Richmond,
enjoyed
it's
that
kind of
as
the
well.
opposite. Richmond's almost pure classic, but because Richmond is right in the middle of like North Carolina, which is BattleTech Central for the East Coast. It's ridiculous. And then Nova is right up the road. So,
Interesting.
right now there's some interest in starting to test out Alpha Strike and trying to, hey, let's see what this 350 stuff is like. So it's an exciting time to be that too, Yeah, it's crazy. North Carolina is like the hub of BattleTech on the East Coast. It's
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
on the stream,
That's cool.
on the stream that they had from the North Carolina store, I was like, wow, that is a nice looking
Yeah, is
store that they play at.
Wolfnet
So it was pretty
that's
cool to
really
see.
focused out of there, or I can't. Yeah,
Mech
but
Bay.
Fortress,
It's Mech Bay.
Fortress
Fortress
Bay
is
is
down
focused
there,
out of there.
and,
Yeah.
Oh,
and Southern Assault.
Yeah,
isn't that
Fortress
what-
Minis and Games is down there.
I'm pretty sure
I think so.
Ares is
Yeah,
based
yeah.
out of North Carolina as well, actually. Are they not?
No,
No, Ares is
Wisconsin?
more like central, northern U.S.
I'm gonna say
Yeah,
Michigan,
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin is down
Yeah.
there. Southern Assault
Sorry,
is down
Derek.
there. I want to say a bunch of the Wolfneck guys are down there. Yeah, North Carolina is huge. There's a couple different games. Like, one of my buddies wanted to get back into BattleTech, and I asked in one of the Discords, I'm like, where are the games held in North Carolina? Like, well, if you're close to Riley, it's this store. If you're close to here, it's this store. If you're close to here. I mean, I'm down here in the boot here in Texas, and there's not a game store within 400 miles that's playing BattleTech. In North Carolina, you can't shake a cat without hitting a store, and that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good old Texas.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Favorite.
Does that wrap up our return and report? Anything else going on?
I think that's it for that.
Round's complete.
Pretty sure
Alright.
that's it.
Cool.
That's
All right.
Remarks complete.
That's it.
Now I'm looking at the Kickstarter,
What is
guys.
it,
that's so
4.8
cool.
now?
I'm glad you
Yeah.
guys had such a good turnout, though. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going up by about 50K a
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, 4.8.
I think there'll be a big push near the end. It's like people
Heck
like
yeah.
me kind of shuffle their orders and go up maybe like $30, $40. But, $40 across 17,000 backers, it adds up. You know?
Yeah, it definitely does. It
Oh,
definitely does.
absolutely.
It's a good.
Easy off.
I think
Thing
about
is,
scooting
why do I
up.
want
to
another
the-
Timberwolf?
I think about it. It's true. It's tempting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there with you, John, on the whole Timberwolf thing. But as a guy that plays a lot of Clan, I mean, I think guys at this point, that's another Timberwolf to paint up into a different faction after I strip these 4 Timberwolves.
Maybe I'll get the big one and I'll glue little ones to it like they're elementals.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
There you go. There you go.
Wolf family.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
It's like a super heavy with a bunch of light mechs attached
Yeah,
to
don't give Jason any
Yeah.
ideas about super heavies, right?
it. Dave will
Yeah,
go
like-
agog for
Oh, fuck super heavies, man.
it. Tell me how you really feel.
I just
Profanity
did.
alert.
All right. What else? Do we want to get into the S2 brief? We want to.
So tell me about Justice for Hansens.
No. This started. So Justice for Hansa started when just all of the Wolf Dragoons and Kellhounds and GDL fanboys were all just super excited about all their new fiction coming out and stuff like that. And so I just started putting hashtag Justice for Hansens, which I had Ray ask me about because I said it in another Discord. He's like, what's that all about? And I was like, it's just my way of saying, hey, we need to do some fiction for Hansen's Roughriders. And I'm willing to write it.
Discord that I have yet to join because I'm not an author.
Yeah, well, put in a shrapnel story, sucker. But yeah, that's where Justice for Hansens came on.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know. I suck.
That's where Justice from Hansens came about was my stab back at
I agree.
no fiction for Hansen's Roughriders other than
Justice
a
for
crappy
Hansens.
Dark Age book.
Absolutely.
I want to say I just crappy. I want to dog another writer, but it's one of those things where it was just not a good intro story for getting Hansen's Roughriders into the fiction kind of thing. So that was my take on hashtag Justice for Hansens.
I love it.
I just want to make a quick note here. There's a piece of art in the Kickstarter,
Yeah.
and it's from the perspective of someone piloting a dasher, and somehow they got shot by a Centurion and now are falling in the water. And
I see
I
it.
just-
Yeah.
I think they deserve it at that point.
you do not like Dasher,
You're not
do you?
using the dasher right. Yeah, that's on you.
Yeah, if you get shot by a Centurion, you deserve everything you get.
Yeah,
As a
You
Dasher
deserve
pilot.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. All right, folks, this month's S2 brief is on the Hansen's Roughriders. One of my favorite units. Hashtag Justice for Hansens. Slide. The Roughriders' identity was born around 2961. They were a Federated Sons battlemech regiment under Colonel Ludwig Hansen. They fled the Sons, fearing reprisals, under the reign of First Prince Andrew Davian, who destroyed 5 line regiments of questionable loyalty in reprisal for his father's murder. They moved into the Free Worlds League and joined the 12th Atrian Dragoons, which was a unit led by Ludwig Hansen's distant relative, Gerhard Hansen. During the Anton Marek-Janos Marek Civil War that began in 3014, the 12th Atrian Dragoons sided with Anton Marek. The 12th fought on several worlds during the uprising, only to be worn down and ultimately surrender on Callaway 4. Gerhard Hansen led the remnants of the 12th, as well as other disenfranchised Marek warriors, into exile and reformed them into the mercenary regiment known as Hansen's Roughriders. Appearing in Lyrian space, they began working as mercenaries and quickly became media sensations for their embodiment of the rowdy but successful mercenary. The Roughriders became famous for their attack on the heavily fortified League world of New Olympia, where they annihilated 2 enemy regiments over the course of 3 weeks before they were forced to retreat in the face of overwhelming odds. During the 13th Battle of Hesperus II, the Roughriders were rushed to protect the Steiner factories from an assault by the famed Wolf's Dragoons. The Dragoons made several unsuccessful attacks against the Steiner stronghold until they finally found a weak point, only to be stopped by the Roughriders inside of the factories. This marks the Roughriders as one of the very few units to ever beat the famous Wolf's Dragoons, more precisely, their respected and feared Black Widow Company, on the battlefield. They had also previously killed the commanding officer of the 7th Commando in an ambush during that battle. Throughout their time under contract to the Lyrian Commonwealth, the Roughriders participated in many raids and defensive missions in the lead-up to the Fourth Succession War. During the Fourth Succession War, the Roughriders were assigned to the first wave to invade Wheel alongside Narhal's raiders. The defending Tooth of Ymir Mercenary Command requested a ritualized battle to avoid collateral damage to the civilian infrastructure. The Roughriders defeated the Tooth of Ymir in a battle that was noted to have been fought with skill, compassion, and honor. During the second wave, the Roughriders conquered Hainfield and attacked Saddlers together with the Waco Rangers in what was noted as one of the most effective invasions of the renewed offensive. Because of their regimental history, the Roughriders had a tense relationship with House Davian, though Hans Davian made peace with that unit following the Fourth Succession War. Under a deal sponsored by Katrina Steiner, the Roughriders were eventually posted to a garrison unit on Bromhead in the Capellan March. At the onset of the War of 3039, the Roughriders became part of the invasion force for Pike 4. The Draconis Combine counterattack prolonged the campaign on Pike 4, and the unit suffered considerable losses at the hands of the 5th Sword of Light. After the War of 3039, the Roughriders faced nearly 2 decades of inaction while under contract to the Federated Commonwealth. Colonel Gerhard Hansen, who had led the unit since their inception, retired and handed over the reins to his son, Wolfgang. Colonel Wolfgang Hansen's abilities and attention to detail kept the unit in top-notch condition over the years of inaction, keeping the Roughriders ready for the next fight. The Roughriders would continue to be stationed in the Davian half of the Federated Commonwealth during the Clan invasion. It was not until Catherine Steiner Davian offered them an assignment on the Clan Jade Falcon border during Operation Bulldog that they got their chance to fight the clans. They performed superbly during several fierce raids on Jade Falcon worlds before returning to their garrison world of Bromhead. At the onset of the FedCom Civil War, Wolfgang Hansen met with the commanders of the 2 AFFC units on Bromhead and declared for Catherine Steiner Davian. The assignment on the Jade Falcon border had endeared the unit to Catherine Steiner Davian, and they fought for her during the Civil War. In mid-3064, the Roughriders took and held most of Panpour, but were eventually driven off by the Lexington Combat Group and withdrew, but not before inflicting heavy losses on enemy troops, particularly the Fighting Uruk-hai and the Albion military training cadre. The losses the Roughriders inflicted on the Fighting Uruk-hai on Panpour instigated a contract dispute between the Uruk-hai and the Federated Sons, which caused the Fighting Uruk-hai to leave the Sons and enter the Taurian Concordat. Their unexpected arrival was misinterpreted as the vanguard of an invasion and triggered a Taurian attack against the Federated Sons just as the Civil War wound down. In response to this new threat, Duke George Hasek contacted the Roughriders, who were facing unemployment with the defeat of KSD, and negotiated a contract with the unit. Before the new contract was signed, the 2nd Taurian Lancers attacked the longtime home of the Roughriders on Bromhead, while the Roughriders' combat assets were in transit. The mercenaries would not learn of the attack until later. The remaining Roughrider infantry on Bromhead inflicted several embarrassing defeats on the attackers before the incensed Taurians eventually overran the Roughrider base, killing many of the Roughrider dependents, including Colonel Hansen's wife and 3 youngest children, in what became known as the Bromhead Massacre. The Bromhead Massacre would turn the once rowdy mercenaries into a quiet, brooding, and bitter entity. Colonel Hansen vowed to turn every battlefield into a Taurian mass grave and take no prisoners. The entire unit followed his lead. The fact that the Roughriders possessed no jump ships of their own is the only thing that kept the mercenaries from going on an unsanctioned rampage in the Concordat immediately. As the word of Blake Jihad began to unfold, the Roughriders were stationed on Middale when Dedrickson's Devils attacked under false colors, pretending to be the Taurian Guards. At the sight of the Concordat bull insignia, the Roughriders flew into a rage and soundly defeated the impostors. After their near constant harassment of Capellan March Command, the Roughriders were finally allowed to launch their own offensive against the Concordat. The Roughriders' first target was Electra in Concordat space. The campaign began well, but quickly bogged down against the Taurian insurgents. They eventually overcame the resistance and, in the process, captured a number of Alamo-class nuclear weapons which the Taurians had allegedly prepared to use against them. In the ensuing withdrawal of the Taurian forces, several of the nuclear weapons were detonated by the Roughriders, resulting in a public outcry against the unit, but no finding of wrongdoing by the Mercenary Review and Bonding Commission. Elements of the Roughriders were on Brusset when the newly formed 4th Taurian Lancers attempted to conquer the world. Despite deploying nuclear weapons against the dug-in mercenaries, the Roughriders would go on to ambush and destroy the Lancers. The Roughriders would see action again during a counteroffensive to recapture Hyalite, where they used fuel air bombs against the defending Gordon's armored cavalry, shattering the mercenary command and recapturing the world for the Federated Sun. It is noted that during the assault on Hyalite, the Roughriders would once again capture a stockpile of nuclear weapons from the Concordat, which would later be used in the assault on Amber Grove. The war between Hansen's Roughriders and the Taurian Concordat escalated to a point where nuclear weapons were used not as a last resort, but right from the start. Eventually, the Taurians would even send a warship after the Roughriders and bombard them from orbit on several worlds in an attempt to destroy the unit. The Taurian Concordat would be unable to destroy the unit throughout the war. The Roughriders would ultimately return to Federated Sun space for resupply and were assigned to the invasion of Terra at the end of the Jihad. This was an effort by the Federated Suns to allow the war with the Concordat to dwindle and redirect the mercenaries toward a bigger threat. What the Concordat failed to do over the course of several years of warfare, the Word of Blake almost single-handedly did on Terra. The Roughriders were nearly obliterated in Texas by nuclear attacks from the Blakeists. At the conclusion of the Jihad, the Roughriders were reduced to a reinforced company and would spend the next 60 years rebuilding themselves into a formidable fighting force again. They were integral to the formation of the Galatia Defense League as a training cadre, and this would lead them to their second visit to Terra in service to the Republic of the Sphere, where they would be embroiled in the defense against the invading clans of Wolf and Jade Falcons. They fought all over the planet and ultimately lost 2 battalions before they managed to escape the rampaging clan forces. Upon their departure from Terra, the Roughriders would return to Galatia and accept Julian Davian's offer of land and titles in exchange for military service. The world of Tybalt has been given to the unit as its new home, with Colonel Lauren Hansen recognized as the planet's duke. And that completes the Roughrider history. Thoughts on that?
Good grief. Are they like heavily associated with nukes or what?
That was funny. The part with the nukes, I had a little chuckle. You're like, they just started with them. I was like, oh.
Weren't the Roughriders the main characters like one of the Merc games? MechWarrior 3
MechWarrior 2. MechWarrior 2, they were you were like attached to them, and like I guess one of the voice actors for it was supposed to be a Roughrider, like Sergeant or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could pick, you could like because you can choose between like Hellhounds, the Dragoons, and the Roughriders, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the Roughriders were on the cover.
Oh,
yeah, I think they were. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm digging deep here.
Yeah, the nukes, man.
They're
nukes.
cool.
Yeah,
when I think Roughriders, I feel like they have a real like heavy metal, black leather image. Yeah. You know, that's what I think of. They're real like they're like a biker. I don't know. I get like biker gang vibes.
Well, you think about it because I think the first time they're ever described is in the Grey Death Legion books in Mercenary Star.
That's right.
With
Delmar Clay.
Delmar Clay, yeah. He was a former Rough Rider.
Yeah. That's true. He's got the jacket.
Yeah. That was pretty interesting.
It does play into my random fact of the day. 2 associated dropships that are named for the Roughriders. One is the Ramblin' Wreck, and the other one is Wild Ride. So that plays right into those.
That's right.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, man. I just find it. I chalk them up there with like the Wolf Dragoons and the Kellhounds as like a mercenary unit that can go to war with a periphery power, you know,
and hold their own
and really just keep them on their toes, you know, or keep them on their heels.
They're cool.
And
we don't have a lot.
Don't have a lot of fiction on them. Hint, Catalyst.
Yeah. You know?
Well, and they've been there from the beginning. They're one of the 5 mercenary units that have been here from the onset of the game. So
yeah, one of the original mercenary units that was associated with a house unit. That's why their emblem or their crest, the blue shield.
Yeah, Lynn's company was the Federated Suns. The 21st Century Lancers was
Merrick, I think, wasn't it?
Merrick.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
And
who was the one?
And the Dragoons
was
were
Curitas.
I thought it was Yeah, they're right. Yeah.
Who was the fifth one?
Linden's.
Linden's company. That's who it was.
Sounds-
Yeah.
Oh, so it's Light Horse and Linden's? Okay.
Yeah, Light Horse Lindens, the Centauri Lancers, the Dragoons, and the Roughriders. I
Yep.
thought.
Right.
Yeah, because the Dragoons were working for Kurita at the time. So
Interesting.
yeah, they're a fun little backstory there.
I love at BattleTech. God, we could probably sit here and come up with 12 to 24 Merc units that have an amazing backstories that have seen little to zero.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, the Rough Riders, the Lexington Combat Group, the 12th Star Guards,
Centauri
the
Lancers.
fourth, the Centauri Lancers, again, some love and shrapnel, but the 4th Taosai Lancers and the other one, the 15th Dracones?
Yeah. Dracons or Dracons.
Dracons, yeah. It's just tons and tons of, regiment to brigade level units that float around, the Lycian Lancers,
Mm-hmm.
just they float around, they influence entire succession wars, and yeah, they've got like a page of notes.
So much
you can do a whole
potential.
S2 brief on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
Oh,
fiction.
Jason,
much
do you
potential.
think this is going to be like? Is that where some of the fiction do you think will be going in the near future? Is more to these merc units, especially since the Kickstarter is mercenaries?
I would almost place money on that. Yes.
Yeah.
They do have their own force pack.
They do have their own force pack. Yes, I
I mean, when you
I-
look at the force packs that have just come out, you've had the
Yeah.
Wolf Dragoons. We've got tons of
Yep.
fiction on them. You've got the Kellhounds. You got
well,
tons of fiction on them.
yeah. I mean,
The
every
Death.
Oh, I thought that the picture came out. Aren't the Hansen's Rough Riders up in
Yeah.
Dominion space now?
Oh, maybe. Was that in
Was that in DD?
That was
I don't
that was a note in. Was it Dominions Divided?
Come to think of it now, I am recalling the page. There in the emblem. Yeah. There is
and
yeah.
They're in one of the sneak peeks coming up. There's a story coming up about them in Ilkhan, and I believe it's written by Randall. So I know there's a story about every force pack. I wrote one.
Nice.
So
Yeah, and Dominions Divide. Like I'm halfway through Empire alone still. I said, I'm slow. And I'm next is Dominions Divided. I just finished A Question of Survival, so I am very much looking forward to Dominions Divided. Yeah,
Question of Survival is a great book, and it's a great jumping on point for fiction, in my opinion.
absolutely.
People always ask, where do I jump on to BattleTech fiction? I'm like, well, if you want to start kind of where we are, jump on with Question of Survival. So. But yeah, I know there's going to be one fiction story for every force pack.
Yeah, I know there's Rough Riders coming out.
Yeah, mine is the outlier. Mine was Star League. Everybody else is going to be Ilkhan, I believe.
Check this out. I got this. I have a copy of Question of Survival, right? I got he signed it. He wrote Long Live the Jade Falcon.
Oh, what?
Isn't
You
that
got signed copy?
That's
What?
awesome.
No,
I'm so jealous.
No, you can just get it off the website, dude. For real. He said,
Yeah.
he like tweeted. He was like, "Hey, click this button, and I'll send you a copy of my book." And I was like, "Okay."
There you go.
It's cool.
I
It's
need
cool.
to do that then.
I just thought it was funny. I wanted to point out what he wrote. Long live the Jade Falcon.
Ben,
Terrible.
you will be happy to know that I recently suffered through another birthday, and my boys got me none other than Hansen's Rough Rider force pack.
Yes.
So there you go.
It's such a good pack, man. Such a good
The
pack.
jumping hatchet man?
Yep.
Penetrator, Jumping Hatchet Man, an Atlas. And
I tell you what, that penetrator,
Enforcer.
that is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
I
Man.
love that.
It is less
All of
squished
that.
than the metal one. I'll say that.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. The little bird legs on the old metal one just didn't really do it for me.
Yeah. And it just
I
was
think-
really... Go ahead.
Oh, I was like, I've always liked the Penetrator since I think it was Kayado Lau or Galen Cox when they do that match on Solaris.
Yeah.
In Assumption of Risk, I think, and he used the Penetrator, and it's like I was like, yeah, dude, this thing rules. Ever since I read that, I've been
That always turned me off because, in my opinion, battle mechs fall into three categories: the good, the bad, the ugly. Good are good, bad suck, and ugly are good mechs that look like shit. And penetrators are ugly. They're just
It is ugly. It is.
And because of the ugliness, you don't realize, hey, this is not a bad mech.
Yeah. It's really not.
I think the new one, the new little mini, I thought I was like, this is cool. This is better than
yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, the new mini makes me want to put it on the table.
Yeah.
I don't play ugly mechs often. Screw them. I don't care. I'm better than that.
This goes back to our conversation in the car, Matt, going to LVO. What mechs does everyone else hate that you love?
Exactly. Yeah, lots of pew pews.
Or just ugly.
Yeah, exactly. What is the one you get on the board and you're like, why is that here? Nah.
Yeah, exactly. Now I see. All right, continuing on, the tactics of the Roughriders. The Roughriders have a penchant for close combat and short-range warfare. They excel at working with non-battle mech units as well, as noted by their preponderance of heavy and assault class armor. The TO&E of the Roughriders field a large amount of heavy and assault class battle mechs and armor. Their armor units especially being comprised of heavy LRM carriers, Shiltrons, Alicorns, with Romulan patent tanks being the light support units. Many battle mech companies are composed exclusively of heavy mechs. Since their formation, they've stayed with a standard organization of 3 mech battalions, 2 battalions of armor, an aerospace wing, and a regiment of infantry. The numbers have fluctuated over the decades, but with their reputation as one of the elite mercenary units, they always build back up. Color schemes. The Roughriders favor a dusty brown and dun coloring for their usual parade scheme, but will use a variety of camouflage when called for. For a small number of years during the Jihad Dark Age time frame, the parade scheme changed to a midnight blue with smoke gray highlights, but has since reverted back to the dusty brown and dun of their original colors. The crest of the Roughriders is a white fanged and horned skull on a blue shield. Similar to the midnight blue paint scheme, the crest background color changed from blue to tan and back to blue again. Thus complete your S2 brief on the Hansen's Roughriders.
Heck yeah. Justice for Hansen.
Justice for Hansen.
That's right.
Somebody write it.
I'm trying.
Are you writing about Hansen's? That'd be tight.
I've got a short story in the works. I'm trying to
I'd read it.
get through the queue.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
There's literally things to write about than there are writers who do it.
There really is. There's so much stuff.
I mean, I can't even write all the crap I want to write.
Right? All right. Any thoughts on Hansen's Roughriders? Going once?
They need more love.
They do need more love. They do need more love.
Yeah, I feel like they're like the wild child out of the original Mercenaries units, because the other ones are, all the comments are like, oh, well organized or well supplied or well disciplined, and this one's like, we get down and dirty with big mechs, and when a Rommel is your light support, it's like, okay, I understand what you guys are doing here. You guys are big. I get it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I didn't really know a whole lot about them. Like, I was always been a big GDL fan for most of my BattleTech time, and it wasn't until I got some assignments to write for the Universe book that I started diving into the Roughriders, and I was like, wait a minute, these guys are right up my alley. I kind of like these guys, So, yeah, justice for Hansen's.
Heck yeah.
All right. Now let's move on to the drink of the month.
Oh, buddy.
Drink of the month.
Drink of the month.
Drink of the month.
Drink of the month.
Hey all, this is Ben here, your BattleTech Master of Spirits. Get your mixers, liquors, shakers, stirrers, and strainers ready as we cover this month's BattleTech Drink of the Month.
All right, folks, this month's drink of the month is the Large Laser and the ER Large Laser, which consists of 3 parts vodka, 1 part cinnamon schnapps. Add alcohol to a highball glass and fill the remainder of that glass with club soda. For the ER Large Laser, add a 2nd part of cinnamon schnapps for that extra range.
Spicy.
So has anybody tried it? I know, Hansa, you tried it.
I did. That picture I sent, was that a highball glass or was that just a tumbler?
It's like a highball glass, yeah.
Okay.
Same thing.
I dug it.
Yeah.
Because throwing in all the soda water kind of, made it more of a semi-flavor, but it diluted it. And I think that in a bigger glass, like not beer mug size, but a taller,
like 12 ounce, kind of.
Yeah, if you could throw in a full seltzer bottle, I think it'd be dangerously delicious.
Yeah.
Okay. I think this was, the rare misstep by the drink creators. They made a good one.
Yeah, exactly. And this
They made
is
something
honestly
palatable.
one that I would not even add bourbon to. I'd go with as it is. Throw some ice in
Whoa,
there.
what? What
Who
the
are you and what have you
fuck?
done with BourBen?
I know. I'm going completely
Holy
off the
shit.
reservation on this. So, yeah, it's throw some ice in a pint glass.
Ice.
Yeah.
That was the thing is it was fine, and then I added some ice into it because it was just warm. It was room temperature.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the ice made the difference. The original recipe doesn't mention ice, but throwing this over ice and then maybe a little bit of a bigger glass, and this is not a terrible drink. It's actually not bad at all.
Yeah.
To disclaimer, they didn't have cinnamon shops, so they used Fireball for mine. So I don't know.
Well, that's fair.
It's
but
cinnamony.
It's very cinnamony, but it was good. I could seriously see sitting there like on a back porch around December drinking one of those, watching the snowfall or something. It's I dug it.
He got a chemical laser.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to. I don't even think that's on my list. I'm gonna have to create some for some of these
Yeah,
new
do a
weapons.
chemical laser. That'd be tight.
Yeah, we'll definitely come up with something for that. Well, cool.
So for Ben and Jason, those that have drank it, does it burn? Is it smooth? Like how's it go down?
It was a good sipping drink.
Yeah. Gives you a little bit of heat on the back end,
Yep.
from the vodka, I think mostly, but the cinnamon gives it a little bit more flavor than just the straight potato.
Now I
Taste
used good vodka. I was like, if I'm gonna suffer here, I'll use the $12 shot vodka. I'll pay the extra $3.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. It's like I said, I would not even add bourbon to this. I'd just take it as it is, and
On a fall night sitting by a fire.
Yeah,
Good sip, yeah,
pretty solid. So
like I said, rare mistake.
No bourbon.
no bourbon on this
bourbon
one.
from the bourbon.
I know. It's crazy, but it's
My
it's a
mind
decent
is
drink.
blown.
I know. You have to try it out now.
I mean, I do. Oh, what was that? A whoop?
That's the woo!
And that is your drink of the month. All right, moving on. News from neighborhood.
I just checked the Discord and Facebook for games that are being played all throughout Colorado.
So we're waiting on Luke to get some details on the Q3 Alpha Strike event in Pueblo, Colorado.
Hit us up, Luke.
Let us know, man. Let us know. Also, upcoming actions. We're kicking off the Marshall Olympiad here in Westminster. It's going to consist of a classic game. All right. I'm going to put the rules set out on Discord so you can download the rules set, take a look at it, build your forces, whatever you need to do. The way it's going to work is you submit your forces pre-May 1st. May 1st, the first scenario will be published, and the whole month of May, that scenario will be run. You only have to play one scenario to be accounted for in the Marshall Olympiad standings. And then we'll do 3 total scenarios, May, June, and July, with July 31st being the last time that the third scenario can be played. And then we will give out prizes at the end for those that participate. So come on out and play some classic.
And Ben, I'll throw one out after that. I didn't throw this on the show notes, but the tentative date for the next Battlefronts event, which will be Battlefronts Clan Invasion, should be, if all things go well, it should be on May 6th. So that's a Saturday, all-day event. We'll have Alpha Strike Classic, maybe some Destiny. We'll see what's going to be going on, but details forthcoming. Should be another great event. Last time, I think we had like 25, 26 players come out. It's just kind of an event to get into the feel of the era and to really kind of have to deal with the issues that come out in the lore. So we will be putting out some more details about that. But everyone, come on out to Hobbytown Westminster on the 6th of May.
Cool. Mike, you guys got anything going on in the Springs? No, Mike.
Come on, Mike.
I'm back.
Got anything in the Springs?
Nothing in the springs that I'm tracking at the moment. The next event that we've been, I don't know, somewhat tracking is the Pueblo event from Luke down at Game Night Games, but we have yet to receive any major intel as to what that event will be. This, that, and the other.
And then we've got Battle for the Sphere 3 coming up in September-ish, I believe. So it's way out.
Yeah, that's a little far out from the current recording. Battle for the Sphere is generally our beginner-friendly, or at least most beginner-friendly event. For the state, I think Dave, he has left us at this point, because he is weak.
Yeah.
Suck on that, Dave. The
oh my.
The beginner-friendly event in September, I think he wants to do, for the first event, we did a singular location. And then for the second event, we did a split location. I think for the third event, he wants to go back to a singular location. I don't know. We got time to figure it out. Figured
out. All right. So I think that covers our upcoming actions, and we're down to shout-outs. All right. So we're going to start with our guests. Let's go to Canaan. Canaan, you got any shout-outs?
Yeah, thank you so much. I am Canaan Hill. I do a BattleTech podcast with my friends, Brent and Aaron. It's called Of Mechs and Men, a BattleTech book club. And right now we are going through the BattleTech novels in mostly chronological order. It's just a fun project and my friend Aaron hasn't read them at all. So we're taking him through the books, like chapter by chapter. Check it out. We just finished Mercenary Star, and we're about to start Price of Glory. And we had a great time. And we really do. We just go through the books and just talk about, what's going on. We just talk about them. We have a great time. We had a lot of fun reading about Grayson on Verthandi and all that. What a classic. And the Marauder. It was a blast. And
you guys do a great job.
Yeah.
So props to you guys.
Thank you. We're about to start Price of Glory, and we're very excited. And check us out. We're on everything. We're available on all the major platforms, Spotify and Apple Podcasts and whatnot. And we're gonna start putting stuff up on the YouTube channel as well at some point. We do have the YouTube channel, and check it out. Of Mechs and Men.
Ooh, awesome. Yeah, you guys do a good show, man.
Thank you.
We really enjoy it. Jason, shout-outs to you.
All right, well, my first shout-out is to the mystery gentleman. Last night when I was drinking at the bar, we were sitting there talking, and we were sitting there talking about service, and they found out I was a vet. And so they bought me my large laser. So to the mystery dude who sat there and bought it for me and then floated off to his room, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, very cool. Second shout-out would be definitely to my local gaming groups and the stores. Richmond Battlegrounds has been hosting us for years. I got there like 9 years ago, every other Saturday. And so the group, the guys that sit there and let me just screw up and bring random mechs and then they shoot me, it's great. Battlegrounds has been, very supportive. It's been great. Waterloo up on the northwest side, that's sounding like the cheers of game stores. And they support me. They love my kids. Just absolutely great game stores. It keeps the community alive. Which brings me to my third shout-out, which is definitely the fans. A couple episodes ago, I think you guys did a episode about burnout. So don't confuse how many words have been published by me versus how many I've written. I wrote well over 100,000 words last year, like 125K, 130K, which is like 300 words a day. That's professional level, and I have a real job. And I was definitely approaching burnout. And right in like kind of January, the Discord channels just kind of like discovered my work. They created like the Hansa sadness scale for my stories.
Yes.
And I just thank you all to the people who have recently come online and been pumping me up. I've needed it. I hit a wall in early January, and then this response, especially to Incident and Defenseless, has been carrying me for the past 60 days. So to everybody who likes my stories, to everybody who shot me a note or tagged me and saying, "Why are you making me cry again, you bastard?" I love you all. Thank you so much. So that's my shout.
That's pretty good.
Awesome. Dave.
My shout out goes out to all the people that are supporting us, and to all the folks that are across the Battletech community that are listening into us and reaching out and saying hello and coming onto the Discord. And, it just makes this whole thing worth it. And it makes it really fun to be a part of the community at large instead of just being a player. And it's kind of cool to know that people take time out of their day to listen to us. So that's my shout out, just to say thank you to everybody that's out there that's listening to us, and for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. So thanks.
So sweet. John.
Yeah, Canaan, it was nice meeting you, and Hansa, it was nice talking again. If you ever want to run a Loki at me sometime, just let me know. Shout outs go to our own Ben and Matt for putting on the Kickstarter event. Went really well, and to everyone that came out, it was awesome seeing everyone having fun, meeting people that I've never met before, and getting to chit chat, play some fun games. So thank you to everyone. You guys all make the community better as a whole. So thanks.
Thanks, John. Matt.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed having both you guys here on the podcast tonight. It's been great to have you both. Excellent guests for sure.
Yeah.
I'll throw a shout out to my regular Wednesday night guys. We've had we do a kind of BattleTech night at my place every Wednesday night here in Fort Collins, and I've had a great number of people that come through and play, one or two times a month or something, but 3 guys have really stuck with me and come almost every week. It's Lauren and Josh and Ian. So I just wanted to give a shout out to you guys. It's always great to play with you guys on Wednesday nights, and you guys are here in Colorado, especially here in Fort Collins. So shout out to you guys. Thanks, guys.
Mike.
Okay. For me, I want to shout out Brian D. I just ran a intro game for him yesterday, which was the last day of March, because now it's April 1st. He's primarily a Warhammer player and starting to branch out. I think he had a good time based off, my conversation with him. So shout out to Brian D. and to you, Jason, for being an amazing author. I apologize, I haven't read more of your stories. I've read one, and that was the Third Pillar, but I loved it so much. Just shout out to you.
Totally.
I love your storytelling. I've only read the one story so far, but I am looking forward to all of the others once I very slowly catch up, because man, am I behind. Just in general, just all around, I'm behind because I got into it 2-ish years ago, and I read slow.
Hey man, I started 30 years ago, and I'm still trying to catch up.
Yeah.
So I'm not alone.
There's so much.
Yeah. Jason, I appreciate you. The story, the one that I've read so far, Third Pillar, the heist. Who doesn't love a good heist? I love it. Thank you. And just thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Thank
all
you,
around.
man. I appreciate it.
Mr. Hansa. It really was. It was a pleasure to speak with you.
It has been great meeting you, and I appreciate that you dug into a lot of my more kind of obscure works. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Man.
I love talking about the kangaroos. I
love it.
And to Mike, thank you for loving the Third Pillar. I poured a shit ton of effort into that story, and the fact that it resonated so well with you and that you actually want to go out and hunt out my other stuff. It means a lot. Thank you. Thank you
Absolutely. I'm so excited for everything else.
Yeah.
And my shout-outs go to all the folks that came out for the launch party in Westminster. Really appreciate you guys' support. I hope you guys have a great time. I want you guys to show up. We're there every Friday night. Come out and play with us. And my second one goes to Seth over on the Mercenary Star YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out the Mercenary Star YouTube channel yet, definitely go do that. He's breaking down all of the mercenary units in the lore. So check him out.
The White Fox.
White Fox.
The White Fox himself. Yes.
That's it. And
that's a good podcast. I dig it.
Yeah. It's a good time. And that brings us to our last call.
Last call.
Hey, everyone.
Thanks for joining us today in the Valhalla Club. Special thanks to our sponsor, Ares Games and Miniatures. Ares is the premier online retailer for all your BattleTech needs. You can contact us at thevalhallaclub@outlook.com. If you are in Colorado, please join your local community group on Facebook and Discord. If you are able to help support your local Colorado BattleTech community, subscribe on Patreon to Colorado BattleTech. This Patreon account is used to supply prize support for local events and assist in venue costs. Links for the Valhalla Club Discord, the Colorado BattleTech Patreon, and Facebook group are in the show notes. Until next time, Mech fans. What's up, Canaan?
Hey.
Howdy.
Oh, it's that Canaan guy.
Hey.
Hello.
It's Trent.
It is Trent.
What's going on, boy?
I was going to leave, and they told me I had to stick around. So at least for like another 6 minutes or so.
At least so Canaan can say hi.
Thank you. Trent, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm well.
I fell asleep during the D&D movie a couple of times, but that's because
now?
That is because I was exhausted.
Yeah.
Which one? The new one or the old crappy one from the 90s?
Well, I still kind of like the old crappy one.
You can't. I cannot get past the blue lip bag.
Oh, falling asleep during that is fine.
He was so good. One of my favorite werewolf movies, Bad Moon, I think it was. He was in with
Mario. He's a good actor. It was just bad.
Well, it's like somebody was like, oh my God, I hated it so much. The bad guy was so over the top. I'm like, have you fucking played D&D?
That's what I was saying. Have you ever played an RPG before?
For real.
The best graphic in that entire movie was the one scene with a beholder in it that's just kind of floating around in the background. That's like the best CG in the whole movie.
Dude, that reminded me of Big Trouble in Little China.
Mm-hmm.
Also an amazing movie.
Good movie.
The scene where whichever one of the Wayans spawn it is that gets caught in the rug of devouring or the whatever it is. There's an interview with him where he's talking about how much that oatmeal stank by the time he actually got into the thing. And he was just like, it was horrible. Oh, I loved it.
Oh, Matt, what's up?
Balls. What's going on?
Balls?
It's
Did you say
okay.
balls?
It's okay. They will descend. Just be patient.
Trent, nice to have you on again.
Well, I mean, I'm not really on per se.
I know.
Crashing the party.
Yeah.
We don't take away the once you're on the podcast, we don't take away your permissions to access. So
Guest status.
Oh, I see. So it's like herpes. You just keep it forever. That's lovely.
forever.
Grandfathered into everything.
I'm going to jump on different streams and just ask dumb questions.
It's a way to do it.
Oh shit! Does this Archer model have rear-facing lasers?
Yes.
Nobody does that.
Like every
What pack
Archer
is it
model
out
has
of?
that.
I don't know which one this came out of.
Also, what's
I think
going
there's
on
an
in your wet
Atlas
palette?
that has
You know what?
backwards facing
You,
SRMs.
you keep your
Which is so
comments to
dumb.
yourself about my wet palette.
That's a clusterfuck, my guy.
Because I'm cheap and I don't want to put a new thing on it.
Wet palette.
They're
That's
so
something.
cheap.
I'm struggling so hard not to comment on that wet palette.
Yeah, the wet
I mean,
palette.
It's bad enough that you describe Craig as a workhorse. I'm like, oh Jesus, hi.
So I'm really curious about the wet palette. Is it worse when the wet palette is too wet or not wet enough?
Oh my gosh.
We're just talking about painting, Matt.
Phrasing.
So we're not
yeah.
doing phrasing.
I would
show,
say
right?
it's probably worse when it's too wet.
We went from pronunciation to phrasing.
Like most things in life, there is a proper level of moisture that you need to reach.
Would one say
Lubrication.
just the perfect amount of moistness?
No, Michael, you're banned.
Got to be moist.
It's very good.
It totally is.
This show's gonna be
Every
so
episode is
radar.
like this.
I like to aim for NC, man. You know what I mean? Just go all the way.
Just like prom night.
Yeah.
Nice.
Uh oh. Prom night babies.
Hey,
Yeah.
he edits
Oh,
out
yeah.
all of my
Yeah.
most of my swearing throughout the whole.
But not the jelly
Whole thing.
beans.
I was
Turned up my
just about
game.
to say that.
Ah, the fucking beans.
Fuck, I knew I forgot something tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Thank you for the parenting advice. I'll think about it.
From the guy who has no kids.
Exactly.
Alrighty, I'm going to bow out.
Who has made the choice to not have any children.
Did you get the snippy?
Fuck, yes, I did.
That's nice. That's liberating. That's like just walking around with an unloaded gun instead of a grenade in your hand.
Well,
Yeah,
hey,
but
Trent,
this one-
thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, no
Yeah, it's
problem.
good seeing you again,
Well,
Trent.
Yeah,
The
I mean, not that you're
vasectomy talk
seeing
is totally going in the bloopers.
What?
it.
Should be in the main show. I want to
You
be
can do
highlighted.
the
Spotlighted.
vasectomy thing or be gay like me. Either way, it's fine.
It all worked out.
Although there is a chance, there's a very small chance that somewhere out there I may have a son from like
Very good.
right before I went into the army. So, you know.
This is an
I'll
all-inclusive
go start for you,
podcast,
son.
Trent.
Yeah,
Good
I
to
know.
go.
I had that feeling when I was here before.
There you go.
All right. So you guys have a good show.
Have a good one, Trent.
Thanks, Trent.
Thanks,
You
Trent.
too, brother.
Have a good
Good
night. Mike, I'm just gonna do the music from Star Wars when they're having a lightsaber fight. Ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. And I'll just do that the whole night through. You can edit it out.
Mute.
Da 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 da.
Yeah, see, we all know it. Do 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 do.
Mike, do we have to turn off Craig? Turn him off?
Oh, I'll
Go
I'll
away.
turn him off.
You can kill Craig.
You killed
Time
Craig!
to kill Craig.
We can kill Craig.
Sergeant Craig.